Chapter 264. Lin Feng's figure flickered and entered the mysterious sky time cave. Wang Lin was sitting cross-legged under the small mysterious sky treasure tree with his eyes closed, silently circulating his mystic arts. At this moment, Wang Lin's entire body was shrouded in black qi, which faintly flickered with a soft purple light. Within the cold and empty power of nirvanic destruction, there was a faint hint of the heavens' creation and creation. Lin Feng knew that this was because Wang Lin had a deeper understanding of the 8 trigrams, heavenly Great Tao scripture. He had previously comprehended some of the nirvanic true meaning of the 2 poles of life and death, and now he had come into contact with the mysteries of creation. The combination of the 2 finally allowed him to break through the bottleneck of his state of mind, and he began to build his spiritual platform to break through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment. Without disturbing him, Lin Feng landed beside him silently. He did not say anything and only released his magic power, turning it into a cloud of purple qi that enveloped Wang Lin. On one hand, it was to protect and escort Wang Lin, and on the other hand, Lin Feng secretly investigated the specific situation of Wang Lin's spiritual platform. In Wang Lin's qi, black qi lingered like a thick fog. Lin Feng passed through the black qi and saw a purple spiritual platform slowly rising from the ground in the center of the qi. The purple spiritual platform was shrouded in faint yellow water. With the 8 trigrams heavenly Great Tao scripture as the main, the yellow springs true water as the auxiliary, and the power of nirvanic destruction, this was the embryonic form of Wang Lin's spiritual platform. However, the speed at which Wang Lin's spiritual platform was built made Lin Feng secretly frown. When Tiny Tot and the others built their spiritual platforms, the preparatory work took a long time, but the real spiritual platform was completed in the blink of an eye. However, although Wang Lin's spiritual platform was also formed at a speed visible to the naked eye, it was obviously much slower. This gave Lin Feng a bad premonition. Under his gaze, Wang Lin's spiritual platform was erected layer by layer, but the speed was getting slower and slower. In reality, a small leaf was stuck to Wang Lin's forehead. It was the mysterious sky treasure tree leaf that Lin Feng had left for him, and it had a certain chance of improving the quality of the spiritual platform. Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing had both used it before, and the effects were not bad. Yu Hongyan had even taken the opportunity to upgrade his spirit platform from his original grade 2 spirit platform to grade 1, and the effects were off the charts. The sky treasure leaf was now emitting a faint light, and completely turned into a stream of light and merged into Wang Lin's body. This stream of light fell into Wang Lin's spiritual domain and entered his spiritual Feng's qi. Lin Feng nervously looked at Wang Lin's beer, but discovered that after fusing with the mysterious sky treasure leaf, Wang Lin's beer still did not show any signs of improvement. Does the probability of failure just have to happen to little Lin? Lin Feng frowned. This was not the result he wanted to see. The person who needed the sky treasure leaf the most to improve the quality of the spiritual platform had not succeeded. Seeing that Wang Lin's spiritual platform was about to be completed, Lin Feng fell silent. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wang Lin's spiritual platform only had 4 levels. 6th grade spiritual platform. With the abundant spirit qi from Yujing Mountain, the power of creation from the purple cycle qi, the 8 trigrams of the Great Way of the Heavens, and the support elixirs such as the Supreme Elixir and Bottleneck Breaking Elixir, Wang Lin's spiritual platform was still only 6th grade. Originally, Lin Feng had been a little worried that it would affect Wang Lin's spiritual replenishing elixir if he hadn't given it to him in advance. Now, it seemed that even if Wang Lin took the spiritual replenishing elixir, his spiritual platform would at most be 4th grade or 5th grade. The effect of the sky treasure leaf would not exceed that of a 3rd grade spiritual platform. Only 1st grade and 2nd grade spiritual platforms and 1st grade pill cauldrons could have a chance of forming a purple core when forming the golden elixir. As for people like Lin Feng, Tiny, Xiaoyan, and Zhu Yi, the phenomenon produced by the golden elixir was built on the foundation of a purple core. It was impossible for a red core, green core, and yellow core to produce a phenomenon. In reality, Lin Feng's 8 trigrams Great Tao Scripture of the Heavens, in the foundation establishment stage and Aura's core stage, is practically the top Tao technique of the human cultivation world that surpasses the Tao techniques of the Void Temple. That's why the little guy and company have such domineering battle strength. The Tai and Su Daos of the Taishu Temple, the Grand Wang Qing Dao, and the Void Yin Yang Dao were all extremely powerful. Combined with the high talent of the disciples, they had a 100% chance of forming a second-grade spiritual platform and a certain chance of forming a first-grade spiritual platform. If one succeeded in cultivating a top Tao, the results would be extremely gratifying. The cultivator would far surpass their peers, but correspondingly, it would be extremely difficult to cultivate. Why was the Taishu Temple a concentration camp for geniuses? This had a lot to do with their Tao. Those with mediocre talent would find it difficult to achieve anything by cultivating the Tao of the Taishu Temple. This was an objective fact, not because the Taishu Temple discriminated against them. And Lin Feng's 8 trigrams of the Great Way of the Heavens was even more heaven-defying. If one succeeded in cultivating it, they would have a 100% chance of forming a first-grade spiritual platform. If this news was released, it would definitely make the entire heaven primal world go crazy. But for the same reason, the 8 trigrams of the Great Way of the Heavens was more profound than the Taishu Temple's Tao. That was why Lin Feng had long planned to prepare another Tao for the new disciples. It was born from the 8 trigrams of the Great Way of the Heavens, but it was slightly lower level and easier. Zhu Yi's 8 trigrams of the Great Way of the Heavens was just the beginning. It was used to build a foundation for the Qi Refinement Realm disciples. When this batch of Qi Refinement Realm disciples advanced to the Foundation Establishment Realm, there would be other Tao. Actually, with Wang Lin's bone structure, it was extremely difficult to cultivate the 8 trigrams of the Great Way of the Heavens. It was very difficult to form a spiritual platform. If it was someone with the same bone structure, they would be stuck at the early stage of the Foundation Establishment Realm for the rest of their lives. But it just so happened that Wang Lin's comprehension was heaven-defying and his will was extraordinary. He forcefully made a path out of the impossible and successfully used the 8 trigrams of the Great Way of the Heavens to form a spiritual platform. But the result was that the grade of the spiritual platform was limited. The Great Tao is the simplest. The true supreme Tao should be suitable for everyone in the world. No matter how talented one is, they should be able to bask in its blessings. Lin Feng thought in his heart, I can feel that when I reach the end of my book of Tao, it should be this logic. But now there's only the 8 trigrams and the 4 symbols. The Tao is not complete. Instead, it has become extremely profound, making it extremely difficult for people to comprehend. Lin Feng sighed and stretched out his finger to lightly touch Wang Lin's forehead. A purple qi entered Wang Lin's sea of qi and landed on Wang Lin's 6th grade spiritual platform. Without a sound, Wang Lin's spiritual platform collapsed. Under the nourishment of Lin Feng's magic power, Wang Lin was not injured. Even his magic power and mind were not damaged. He opened his eyes, and without saying a word, he slowly knelt in front of Lin Feng. At this moment, even if Wang Lin's will was full, he could not help but feel slightly disappointed. Facing Lin Feng, who had always been teaching and cultivating him, he felt even more guilty. Among all the disciples in the same sect, he cultivated the most diligently, but the results were still not satisfactory. He fell to the worst of everyone. Lin Feng looked at Wang Lin silently. The talent detector showed that Wang Lin's innate bone potential was 5 points. In other words, the system thought that if there was no external interference, Wang Lin's final innate bone potential would only be 5 points. Lin Feng raised his head and looked at the sky. After a moment, his gaze became firm. Without external interference, the highest is 5 points? Very good. Then I will be this external force. He lowered his head to look at Wang Lin, and said lightly, "Don't be too hasty. Don't feel pressured. I have already made arrangements for your situation. It's just that the time is not right." Wang Lin raised his head and met Lin Feng's confident gaze. His emotions gradually calmed down. The disappointment disappeared in a flash. Wang Lin's expression became calm again. He bowed to Lin Feng seriously. "Disciple is useless. I have trouble, master. Since you have become my disciple, I naturally have to protect you and plan for you." After sending Wang Lin off to nourish his magic power and continue cultivating, Lin Feng put his hands behind his back and thought to himself, "Of the two plans, which one is more suitable? Forget it. I'll see what I can gain in the ancient desolate sea world before making the final decision." As Lin Feng thought about it, a cold glint appeared in his eyes. "Actually, I don't really want to use the first plan, but I want to see if some blind bastard will take the initiative to run into the muzzle of the gun." After Lin Feng left the mysterious heaven time, light, grotto heaven, and settled the Kuways, it was already night. He went to the disciples' abode, where the new disciples were resting. After sensing for a while, Lin Feng discovered that in less than a month, all the new disciples had gained a basic understanding of qi cultivation. This batch of disciples had pretty good talent. Although they could not compare to Lin Feng's monstrous personal disciples, they could be considered geniuses in the general sense. With Zhu Yi's careful guidance and the disciples' abode that gathered the spiritual energy on the mountain to nourish their bodies, it was expected that they could make such progress. Every once in a while, I have to show my face in front of these disciples and give lectures. Not only can I guide them in Tao techniques, but I can also strengthen the unity of the sect. Lin Feng left the disciples' abode. With a thought, he went to the other side. That was the house he had created using the violet aura of all the heavens. That was where the children he had brought up the mountain lived. The big house was divided into many small rooms. Lin Feng walked into one of the rooms and saw a figure sitting there quietly. A child was lying beside him, sleeping soundly. "Nanhua." Lin Feng frowned slightly, recognizing that the figure was Kong Nanhua. However, Kong Nanhua's current emotions made him feel a little strange. Kong Nanhua stared at the child with a pained look in her eyes. 3 parts pity, 3 parts guilt, 3 parts remorse, and 1 part bone-deep anger. This was the first time Lin Feng saw Kong Nanhua show such intense emotions. He keenly discovered that Kong Nanhua's emotions were not directed at the child in front of him, but he was immersed in his own memories. The child in front of him evoked memories and gave him sustenance. Although he knew that Kong Nanhua preferred to spend time with children, seeing this scene, Lin Feng's heart still moved slightly. He knew that things were not simple. Looking at Kong Nanhua's current appearance, he understood that there was probably a knot in his heart, a knot that was almost like a demon. Seeing Lin Feng, Kong Nanhua let out a long sigh. The pain in his eyes disappeared, leaving only a deep loneliness. He nodded slightly at Lin Feng and did not speak. Lin Feng did not say anything and walked out of the house first. Kong Nanhua also left and followed behind Lin Feng. Chapter 265. Lin Feng walked out of the house and strolled under the mysterious heaven treasure tree. Kong Nanhua was 3 steps behind him and walked with him aimlessly. "Nanhua, are you not going to invite me to your cave residence?" Lin Feng turned around and smiled. Kong Nanhua nodded lightly. "It would be my honor. This way, please, sect master." The two of them sat down in Kong Nanhua's cave residence. Lin Feng looked at Kong Nanhua and said silently, "I have no intention of prying into other people's privacy, but the feeling you give me is that you need a listener." Kong Nanhua's expression was a bit disappointed. "I've made a fool of myself in front of sect master," he said softly. "Looking at those children made me think of some past events, and my state of mind is a bit unstable." Hearing this, Lin Feng's expression became even more solemn. Kong Nanhua was now a great cultivator who formed Yuanying. He had broken through the difficulties of life and death and the fear of heaven and earth, so his willpower was extremely stable. But at this moment, he admitted that his state of mind was unstable. From this, It could be seen that the knot in his heart was very serious. It had already reached the stage of an inner demon and was shaking his Tao origin heart. Kong Nanhua said slowly, "That was a long time ago. It has been 71 years since then. To be precise, it has been 71 years, 3 months, and 15 days. Kong Nanhua recalled, "At that time, I cultivated to the late stage of foundation establishment and condensed a second-grade pill cauldron. It was the time when I was in high spirits." Hearing this, Lin Feng glanced at him. The golden elixir that Kong Nanhua condensed was the highest quality purple pill. Only first-grade and second-grade pill cauldrons had a chance of condensing it. Moreover, it wasn't a 100% success rate. If there was even the slightest mistake, he could only obtain a second-grade vermilion pill. Kong Nanhua didn't come from a large sect. Instead, he inadvertently obtained the teachings of the ancient wandering cultivator Taoist quicksand. He didn't have a master to guide him or the sect's resources. He had to rely on himself to explore and cultivate. In particular, the Tao art quicksand hidden treasure he obtained was only a fragment of the eternal river quicksand incantation. In this kind of situation, he was actually able to condense a second-grade pill cauldron. This was absolutely a heaven-defying matter. It could make 99% of the world's monsters and geniuses feel ashamed. Unless his innate talent and comprehension both reached the maximum value of 10 points, it would be impossible for him to do so. Meeting Lin Feng's gaze, Kong Nanhua seemed to understand his doubts. She said indifferently, "When I first built my spirit platform, I obtained a fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, a 4th-grade spirit platform would have been my final destination." As expected, it also requires the cooperation of fortune. Lin Feng nodded and did not say anything. Kong Nanhua had overcome a huge obstacle in her path of cultivation. She must have been in high spirits at that time. Kong Nanhua's gaze was once again filled with pain. She stared at the ceiling of the cave, her gaze unfocused. "Although I've condensed a second-grade pill cauldron, my cultivation has reached a bottleneck. I've been unable to form my gold core for a long time. The great Tao of the golden elixir seems far away from me. For unorthodox cultivators without the guidance of a master and the support of a sect, breaking through to the next realm was the most difficult. They had to rely on themselves to explore and comprehend. I felt that sitting down and cultivating wouldn't be very effective, so I went out to travel in an attempt to break through the hidden latch of life and death," Kong Nanhua said slowly. "Later, I walked in the mountains and arrived at a small village. Although the living conditions were very difficult, the people in the village were very hospitable and welcomed me. There, regardless of whether they were men or women, young or old, they had to climb between the rocks every day to gather a type of spiritual medicine and then sell it to people outside the mountain in exchange for the necessary necessities of life." From Kong Nanhua's description, Lin Feng understood that the mountain rocks were extremely steep. For cultivators like them, of course, this was nothing. Not to mention the gold core stage and the foundation establishment stage. Even if it was a Qi refinement stage cultivator, as long as they had the cultivation of Qi refinement stage level 3 or 4, they would be able to walk like walking on flat ground. But for ordinary people, those mountain rocks were absolutely dangerous. No matter how skilled they were and how well prepared they were, it was like dancing on the tip of a knife. In the village, there were often villagers who fell off the cliff while gathering medicinal herbs and left their families forever. But for the villagers in the mountain village, this was their most precious source of income. It's not that they weren't afraid of death, but the pressure of survival and the desire to live overwhelmed their fear of death and danger. Kong Nanhua shook his head slightly. Maybe they still had some wishful thinking? Lin Feng said indifferently, "It's because of this that humans have been able to develop to this day. Isn't it the same for you and I when we cultivate?" Kong Nanhua nodded. "Yes, when I saw them walk between life and death, it touched me a lot. I'm not afraid that Sect Master will laugh at me, but before that, although I concentrated on cultivation, I had very little contact with this kind of thing. This should be the main reason why I encountered a bottleneck in my core formation." His eyes revealed a nostalgic look. The pain gradually disappeared, and was replaced by a rare warm and happy mood. I wanted to carefully feel the fear and courage of the villagers when they faced life and death, so I stayed there for a long time and tried to teach them some qi cultivation Taoist techniques. Although most of them didn't have enough talent to cultivate, it could at least strengthen their bodies and give them some capital to survive in the mountain forest. Kong Nanhua said, "As for me, I gave up all my mana and cultivation to learn from the villagers to climb the cliffs and gather medicinal herbs. There were a few times when I really thought I was going to die." Lin Feng smiled. Kong Nanhua smiled back. The people in the village basically didn't have the talent to learn Taoist techniques. The qi cultivation Taoist techniques I taught them could only be used to nourish their body's qi and blood. There was only a 7-year-old little girl. The girls in the small mountain village didn't have a big name. The villagers all called her Maoya. Maoya didn't only understand Taoist techniques very quickly, her foundation was also very good. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He sighed and thought to himself, "Looks like this little girl is the knot in Kong Nanhua's heart." As expected, Kong Nanhua's mood dropped again. "When I was in the village, I stayed at Maoya's house. Maoya's parents passed away a long time ago, but she still lived a strong life. When I went to the cliffs to gather medicinal herbs, she was the one who taught me. At that time, we were both teachers and friends. I taught her Taoist techniques, and she taught me how to climb the steep cliffs without using mana. We stayed together for a year." Lin Feng originally wanted to tease Kong Nanhua about being a lullicon, but looking at Kong Nanhua's current mood, he gave up on that idea. Moreover, he could also see that the relationship between Kong Nanhua and the little girl was purely a friendship despite the difference in age. Or maybe it couldn't even be considered a friendship despite the difference in age. It was just an adult's love for a child. "What happened after?" Lin Feng asked silently. "After?" Kong Nanhua's face became even gloomier. Slowly, he said, "One day after that, Maoya and I came back from gathering medicinal herbs. We saw that the village was in a mess. It turned out to be a robbery by bandits. The leader of those bandits was a cultivator at the qi refinement stage. He left a message that in the future, all the medicinal herbs collected by the mountain village must be given to them for free. If they didn't obey, they would slaughter the entire village." Kong Nanhua said, "After I heard that, I went to find the bandits' lair without saying a word." The pain in his eyes became more and more intense. "Maoya asked me at that time if the village would be fine. She said she was very scared. I told her it's okay. You will be fine. I will definitely protect you." Lin Feng's pupils contracted slightly as he stared at Kong Nanhua. Based on his understanding of Kong Nanhua, this was equivalent to Kong Nanhua's promise to Maoya. For Kong Nanhua, keeping promises was his life principle. It was an unshakable and uncrossable bottom line, and this was often the source of his pain. Sure enough, Kong Nanhua continued, "I found the bandits and found that they had done far more evil things than just one or two. Murder and robbery were completely common, so I sent them to the place where they should go. I was afraid that they would harm and retaliate against the villagers in the future, so I specially checked carefully to make sure that no fish had escaped the net. Then I returned to the mountain village easily." Speaking of this, Kong Nanhua suddenly fell silent. Lin Feng also did not speak, sitting opposite Kong Nanhua, facing him in silence. After a long time, Kong Nanhua's faint voice rang out in the cave, without the slightest emotion, carrying a kind of numbness from the death of the heart. "The village was destroyed. Everyone died. Maoya died too. I looked at her eyes that were wide open, and I could even see hope in them. I knew that hope was me, but in the end, I disappointed her." The cave residents fell into silence again. Even the sound of breathing could not be heard. Lin Feng was silent for a while, then slowly said, "This should be an accident. The people who massacred the village and the group of bandits that went with you to find trouble were not the same people. I'm afraid there is not the slightest connection between the two." Kong Nanhua's statue-like body finally moved, slowly nodding his head. "Yeah, I think so too." Even though he moved, Lin Feng did not feel the slightest bit of vitality from Kong Nanhua's body. There was only his hollow voice in the cave. But no matter if there is a connection or not, the end result is the same. Mao Ye is dead. The people in the village are all dead. And I don't even know who the other party is. I can't avenge everyone even if I wanted to. Kong Nanhua closed his eyes again. This person, as well as Zhang Lai, are both my inner demons. Lin Feng looked at Kong Nanhua and sighed. He believed that the deaths of Mao Ye and the others in Zhang Lai using the people of the Society of the Strong Gale as a blood sacrifice, maybe the only 2 times in Kong Nanhua's life that he made a promise to someone. But in the end, he was unable to keep it. No wonder when he saw Kong Nanhua again at the 100 Herb Medicine sect, he discovered that his entire person was a lot more depressed. Presumably, after what happened to Mao Ye and the others, he must have made up his mind in his heart that at that time the first time was also the last, and also the only time. But the following blood sacrifice incident of the Society of the Strong Gale not only opened up his old scars, it even more so made Kong Nanhua's entire faith waver. Luckily this time the identity and background of the target Zhang Lai was very clear. Fury and hatred gave Kong Nanhua a clear psychological sustenance. Otherwise, Lin Feng very much suspects that not only would he not be able to successfully form his nascent soul, his cultivation would even regress. In the eyes of some people, Kong Nanhua might be making a big fuss over a minor issue, inexplicably burdening himself with pressure that originally did not belong to him. But people are different. Everyone has their own path to walk, their own beliefs, their own bottom line, their own thoughts that are not understood by others. Lin Feng stood up and walked over to Kong Nanhua's side, lightly patting his shoulder. I won't tell you any nonsense about looking forward. There's nothing wrong with your eyes always staring at the past, but don't stop because of this. Even if you're walking backwards, your eyes always look at the past, and your feet always move forward. This is to prevent the regretful events of the past from repeating themselves. I believe you understand this simple logic. Kong Nanhua was silent for a moment, slowly nodding his head and also standing up. I understand. I've disturbed the sect master today. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. Suddenly his heart slightly moved, and he couldn't help laughing self-deprecatingly. What's going on today? Each and every one of you have a psychological problem. Did you guys form a group? After bidding farewell to Kong Nanhua, Lin Feng left the cave and re-entered the mysterious heavens time-light paradise. There, Zhu Yi was blankly staring at the space above his head. Chapter 266. Seeing Zhu Yi's appearance, Lin Feng slightly furrowed his brows. In his impression, Zhu Yi is more rational and calm most of the time, and the current him is blankly staring at the space above his head, lost in thought, vaguely somewhat at a loss, even somewhat dazed. Under this bewilderment, Lin Feng can feel a suppressed impatience. Xiao Yi, your heart is in a mess. Lin Feng came to his side and said lightly. Zhu Yi returned to his senses and bowed towards Lin Feng. Master. After bowing, he raised his head and looked towards Lin Feng. He opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but in the end he did not make a sound. Lin Feng held his hands behind his back, thoughts turning in his mind. He opened his mouth and asked, You have a question in your heart. Is it regarding your mother? Zhu Yi was startled, looking at Lin Feng. His lips moved, but no words came out. To be able to make you so conflicted, it definitely wouldn't be your old man, the Marquis of Xuanji, Zhu Hongwu. It can only be Meng Bingyun, who died young and left a perfect impression in your heart. Lin Feng thought in his heart, Zhu Yi's drive to improve, other than his own belief in constantly striving to become stronger, there is still a very important influencing factor, and that is to fight for his mother who suffered unfair treatment. Zhu Yi took in a deep breath and composed himself, saying in a low voice, Master's discerning eyes are like a torch. Disciple is indeed thinking about mother's matters. Disciple's mind is in a mess. Lin Feng did not say anything, saying in his heart, Indeed, many times knowing more things might not be a blessing. Under certain circumstances, ignorance is also a type of blessing. Even though Zhu Yi did not say anything, Lin Feng already understood what he was conflicted about. After all, Lin Feng had more information than Zhu Yi. Your mother, Meng Bingyun, Fairy Meng, was a Taoist world wayfarer from 2 generations ago at Taishu Temple, and she was the Taishu Temple saintess before Yan Mingwei. Lin Feng said calmly, "Your mother is a descendant of the conservative faction at Taishu Temple." Zhu Yi's eyes widened. Lin Feng glanced at him. Slowly, he introduced the views and styles of the conservatives and radicals within the Taishu Temple. Zhu Yi's expression didn't change, but his flickering eyes showed that he wasn't calm at the moment. Lin Feng's words confirmed the conjecture he had always had in his heart. Currently, the conservative faction still dominates the Taishu Temple. Therefore, in the eyes of the world, Taishu Temple is still very quiet. It's still the aloof, elusive, and mysterious first sacred place in the world. Lin Feng said before Pang Jie, there were 3 consecutive Taoist world wayfarers, and they were all descendants of the conservative faction. Later, it was because your mother and Yan Mingyue met with mishaps that the radicals started to rise, and Pang Jie finally took the position. The conservative faction has also adopted a tacit attitude towards this. Because 2 consecutive generations of saintesses had bad endings, it has dealt a blow to the reputation of Taishu Temple to a certain extent. Therefore, Taishu Temple has to show a certain toughness to the outside world. After a long silence, Zhu Yi suddenly asked, "The conservative faction of Taishu Temple is trying to calm down the disputes of the human cultivation world and the divine land, or rather, to reduce the disputes as much as possible. What will they do? The world pursues profit and loses reason. If Taishu Temple doesn't use its power to suppress people, then how will they act as mediators of disputes?" Lin Feng faintly smiled. How can they not use their power to suppress people? It's just that the conservative faction of Taishu Temple doesn't do it so obviously. Other than the methods on the surface, there will naturally be many games and balances in private. In the complicated human society, this isn't strange at all. Lin Feng looked at Zhu Yi, who wanted to say something, but stopped. Silently, he said, "I don't really know why Fairy Meng chose your father, the Marquis of Xuanji back then. I'm afraid that only the 2 of them can clear up the true details of the inside story. Emperor of Zhou, Liang Pan, can be counted as half an insider. After all, the ultimate target of the conservative faction of Taishu Temple is the great Zhou dynasty, which has a strong momentum of expansion and unceasingly devours the surrounding powers." Zhu Yi took a deep breath. "When I return to Tianjing City in the future, I will definitely investigate clearly." Lin Feng said lightly, "There is true love in the world. If your mother didn't truly have a mortal heart, she would never have truly married your father. She would have been like Yan Mingwei, hanging at a distance. If the world wayfarers of Taishu Temple don't want to marry, even Liang Pan doesn't have the ability to force them. Your mother has her own pride." Lin Feng sighed. "It's not like your father didn't truly love your mother back then. But in the hearts of many people, feelings aren't the most important. People are different, so they will naturally make different choices." Zhu Yi nodded his head. He had already completely recovered his calm. "Thank you, Master, for solving the mystery in Disciple's heart. No matter what kind of entanglement there was between his mother and father, it was his mother who pitied him and loved him. She was the only mother who gave him warmth in his youth." Lin Feng watched Zhu Yi's back as he left. The smile on his face gradually disappeared, and a layer of darkness appeared in his eyes. Is Meng Bingyun really such a simple person? Lin Feng looked up at the sky, thoughts running through his mind. Even if the cultivation base of the Taishu Temple's saint was crippled, it's impossible for her to be bullied to death by an ordinary person. Even if Zhu Hongwu instigated her, it's still impossible. Meng Bingyun isn't a bookworm who wholeheartedly focuses on cultivation. She's an outstanding person among the disciples of Taishu Temple who entered the world to gain experience. That's why she was chosen as the world wayfarers of Taishu Temple, representing the face of Taishu Temple. Lin Feng lowered his head and narrowed his eyes slightly. Unless she's willing. Then the question was, Would Meng Bingyun love Zhu Hongwu so much that she would be willing to be tortured to death by his wife? At least, after Lin Feng met her two juniors, Yin Mingyue and Pang Jie, he really couldn't believe that Meng Bingyun would be so infatuated with him. Yin Mingyue, after regaining a new life, had been enduring silently, waiting until Pang Jie had suffered a huge setback before she returned to the stage and returned to the world, stepping on Pang Jie's shoulders to reclaim the glory that belonged to her. If one were to say that Pang Jie wasn't tricked by her, Lin Feng would be the first to not believe it. He was almost 100% sure that Pang Jie had been led to him step by Yin Mingyue. On the other hand, it seemed that Pang Jie had become a stepping stone for Yin Mingyue's high-profile return and had lost all face outside the Sand Continent city. But was that really the case? Pang Jie had more or less sensed Yin Mingyue's intention from the fact that he had only sent a doppelganger to the Sand Continent. However, he had his own plans, so he pushed the boat along. It seemed that Pang Jie had suffered a huge loss, but only Pang Jie knew how much he had lost and how much he had gained. Considering that the two Taoism world wayfarers after Meng Bingyun were not easy to deal with, Lin Feng had sufficient reason to believe that Meng Bingyun was not a soft dough that could be kneaded by anyone. She must have a backup plan. Lin Feng pondered and said, but I don't know if her backup plan is in Taishu Temple or somewhere else. He gazed at Zhu Yi's departing figure from afar and pondered in his heart. Could it be here? Lin Feng shook his head and said with a smile, interesting. He exited the mysterious Heaven Time Light cave and sat on the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree. With a wave of his sleeve, a cloud of purple gas floated in the air. In the purple gas, there was nothing on the ground except for a small sapling that was 2 to 3 meters tall. It was the sapling of the sorrow iron tree that Lin Feng had dug out. Although it had been dug out along with the soil, this kind of spirit tree still had very strict requirements for its growth environment before it had fully grown. Lin Feng did not dare to be careless. The divine rays of the solar true fire hung in the air of the small purple gas world, shining on the sapling on the ground. The lunar true water flowed slowly around the sapling, nourishing its roots. Lin Feng looked at the sapling of the sorrow iron tree silently and said with a smile, unfortunately, I can't let you develop self-awareness. I never dug you out to cultivate a sorrow iron tree demon. As for guarding the mountain gate like the Great Tempest Temple, it was unnecessary for Lin Feng because he had the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree. Of course, if he really wanted the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree to protect the sect, Lin Feng had to continue to improve his cultivation to be able to control it. It was not that the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree did not have self-awareness. On the contrary, its self-awareness was as vast as the sky, extending into the endless void and the myriad worlds. Normally, it would not care about the matters of the Jade Capital Mountain, unless there was a serious threat to it. Otherwise, the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree would not care about anything else. The reason Lin Feng dug out the sapling of the sorrow iron tree was to refine a clone for himself. Because of the flame dragon heaven armor, the god of battle's clone was temporarily fused with it, and it was inconvenient to separate it. Once the god of battle's clone left, and the flame dragon heaven armor was not dismantled, the armor would soon grow its own artifact spirit, which was not what Lin Feng wanted to see. Since the divine battle clone could not be separated for the time being, Lin Feng decided to refine a new clone. The sapling of the sorrow iron tree was a great choice. It had a good foundation, high potential, and enough capital. It was almost the perfect choice. Although it was still a sapling, and its cultivation might not be high after being refined, it should be able to improve its strength very quickly with its potential. With the sorrow iron tree as its body, the strength of the clone would be extremely powerful, allowing it to stand out among cultivators in the same cultivation realm. Lin Feng extended his divine sense into the sapling of the sorrow iron tree and discovered that it was indeed extraordinary. Even his divine sense was having a hard time penetrating it. However, the sapling was still extremely weak compared to Lin Feng. Therefore, Lin Feng slightly increased his strength and broke through the sorrow iron tree's defense. going deeper into the tree. Everything in sight was pitch black, and within the darkness, there were faint flashes of golden light. Lin Feng's divine sense continued forward. Soon, the golden glow grew brighter, while the darkness gradually dissipated. Wherever the golden light floated, it wasn't dazzling, and there wasn't the slightest bit of heat either. Instead, there was a kind of dignified and hard power concept within it. Lin Feng was startled. I've come into contact with the leaves of the Longhuan jade tree before. My cultivation was still too low at the time, thus I could not sense it. Now that I think about it, the Longhuan jade tree seems to contain an ever-changing aura, as if it contains endless possibilities. On the other hand, the sorrow iron tree is the exact opposite. It contains an eternal aura. It seemed like there was some kind of connection between the four mystical trees. Chapter 267. Silently, Lin Feng sensed the Shama iron tree's power and thought to himself. According to the legends, the ginseng fruit tree is the embodiment of the heavens and earth. The fruits it bears are the most mystical, able to extend one's lifespan and increase one's wisdom. It is publicly acknowledged as the #1 wondrous fruit in the world. The divine parasol tree is the resting place of the phoenix, containing the phoenix's nirvanic rebirth and endless life. In addition, although it is a tree, it is the essence of the innate spirit fire, extremely extraordinary. Lin Feng sighed. I wonder when I'll be able to see these two wondrous trees again. As he thought to himself, Lin Feng stretched out a finger and lightly tapped on the Shama iron tree's branch. The purple chi surged into the Shama iron tree, the black branches and golden leaves trembling together. The stubborn Shama iron tree, although it had not developed its own consciousness, it was clearly very resistant to Lin Feng's refinement. Lin Feng was in no hurry, silently using his arcane energy to nourish the Shama iron tree. Towards this stubborn tree that refused to budge, Lin Feng did not use brute force. As he assimilated himself, he also allowed his arcane energy and spiritual sense to approach the characteristics of the Shama iron tree. This made the Shama iron tree vaguely feel that Lin Feng was one of its kind. As such, the process was much smoother. On the outside, the Shama iron tree did not seem to have changed at all. Only its branches and leaves were trembling slightly. But on the inside, the tree had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. Vein after vein formed, and in the center of the trunk, a heart-like tumor had already begun to beat. After the internal transformation was complete, the Shama iron tree's branches began to flicker with light, some large and some small, constantly flickering, faintly resonating with the countless stars in the sky. And correspondingly, countless light dots also began to flicker on Lin Feng's body, just under his skin. If one viewed the Shama iron tree as a human, they would find that the positions of the flickering light dots were exactly the same as Lin Feng himself. These were the various acupoints of the human body. Apart from the internal organs, blood vessels, muscles, and bones, the acupoints were actually the most mysterious part of the human body. They contained the most unique power and vaguely corresponded to the stars in the sky. Cultivators who cultivated physical body martial arts to a high level were actually cultivating their own acupoints. The human body was the most intricate, just like a small universe. The intricacy was reflected in the acupoints. However, most of the inside acupoints were hidden deep within the human body and could not be easily discovered. At the same time, they were in a dormant state. Only when a cultivator stimulated them, through cultivation, would they reveal their terrifying power. Why was the strength of the little guy's physical body so powerful? This was because many of the hidden and secret acupoints in his body had been stimulated. The reason why Lin Feng's avatar of the god of war had such a powerful physical body and stood at the peak of all Tao realms was because this avatar had innately opened up all of the hidden acupoints and developed its own potential to the extreme. Therefore, when Lin Feng was in the golden elixir period, the physical strength of the divine god of battles clone was at the peak of the golden elixir period. Even the black dragon Jia Yu was no match for it. After Lin Feng successfully formed his nascent soul, the physical strength of the divine god of battles clone also reached the peak of the Yuanying period. Therefore, in a sense, the divine god of battles clone was even stronger than Lin Feng's body. Its spells were slightly weaker, but its physical body was much stronger. Although they did not have the chance to fight back that day, Lin Feng was confident that if Pang Jia did not have the hexagonal sword to protect him, his divine god of battles clone could beat him to a pulp. Even if it was the avatar of heaven and earth, it would not be torn apart by the physical strength of the divine god of battles clone. As soon as the acupoints were formed, the Shama iron tree's branches fell down from the top and shook violently. Lin Feng's divine sense completely merged with the Shama iron tree, combining the spiritual energy contained within it with his own arcane energy. After an unknown period of time, the Shama iron tree's branches suddenly shook slightly. Thousands of white flowers bloomed like snow. According to the information Lin Feng obtained, the Shama iron tree only bloomed 3 times in its life. It bloomed once when it gained self-awareness, once when it bore fruit, and the last time when it withered. And now, this Shama iron tree began to bloom for the first time in its life. Although it was only a sapling, the blooming flowers were incomparably gorgeous. The sky was filled with white petals, as if it was snowing heavily. Lin Feng faintly smiled. The shape of the sorrow iron tree in front of him suddenly changed. As the branches twisted and swayed, the Shama iron tree slowly turned into the shape of a person. It was also smiling at Lin Feng. The expression on its face was exactly the same as Lin Feng's, as if it was looking at a mirror. Lin Feng's heart jolted. The facial features of the person in front of him changed slightly. It looked completely different from Lin Feng, as if it was a completely different person. At this moment, the human form of the Shama iron tree was completely fixed. This was a handsome young man. His facial features were not exquisite, and he was not handsome. His skin was bronze, but he possessed a kind of power and masculine beauty that could move one's soul. He was filled with the vitality of life. The young man raised his hand to touch his cheek. He smiled and said, "This can be called an iron tree clone, right?" Lin Feng's main body smiled. With a thought, the iron tree clone turned into a streak of black light and entered between his eyebrows. This doppelganger seems to be more suitable for the cultivation of physical body martial arts, right? 2 clones in a row are like this. It can be considered a type of opportunity. Lin Feng smacked his lips. However, it's still very different from the war god's clone. Just as he was thinking, Lin Feng suddenly sensed something. "Oh, Xiao Budian and the others have already returned?" He slightly recovered and couldn't help but laugh involuntarily. "So, it's me refining the iron tree clone. It's already been more than 10 days. Under Lin Feng's guidance, Xiao Budian and the others returned to Jade Capital Mountain. Once they saw each other, Xiao Budian smiled. "Master, help me take a look. What is this?" Lin Feng looked up and saw that Xiao Budian was holding a piece of golden satin in his hand. He took the golden satin and examined it with his magic power. He immediately understood what it was, and couldn't help but be slightly shocked. "Where did you get this?" Xiao Budian answered, "I accidentally obtained it while searching for the infernal aura shield. This thing can actually resist the infernal aura shield. When we found the place, it was in a deadlock with the infernal aura shield. It just happened to benefit us. I'm more interested in this thing. It took a lot of effort to subdue it. I left the infernal aura shield with 4th senior sister." Lin Feng turned his head to look at Yu Hongyan. Yu Hongyan nodded. "Tianhao used the bronze void cauldron to dispel most of the infernal aura shield's power. Only then did I have the chance to subdue it." Among the fellow disciples, although Xiao Budian was willing to be everyone's little junior brother, Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing were used to calling him by his name, like a friend. They wouldn't call him junior brother. Xiao Budian himself didn't care about this. He also got along very well with Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing. Lin Feng looked at Tunten. Why aren't you enthusiastic this time? Tunton curled its lips. It's not delicious. I have better choices. Why would I eat something that tastes bad? Lin Feng said with a faint smile. Those Yuyua have all been eaten by you, right? Tunton blushed and muttered. That's not enough. I've already said that we should catch all the Yuyuha on the Yunqing Peak. Lin Feng shook his head and ignored this little foodie. His gaze fell on Jieyu, who had a respectful face, and he nodded. You've worked hard. When these 3 words fell into Jieyu's ears, all the bones in his body suddenly became lighter. He hurriedly said, It's my duty, my duty. Before he set off, he already knew that he was accompanying Xiao, Budian, and the others to protect them. Therefore, he didn't think much about the infernal aura shield. At this time, Lin Feng looked at Xiao Budian, who was staring at him eagerly. He smiled and said, This is actually a piece of leather. It was peeled from the body of a demon race great saint who has cultivated to the immortal demon soul stage. Although it felt like silk, there was no doubt that it was animal skin. Strange incantations would appear on it from time to time. Lin Feng passed it to Xiao Budian. Study it well. It'll be very beneficial for you. Xiao Budian's eyes lit up. He took the animal skin and kept stroking it. This little guy is really lucky. As Lin Feng thought about it, he saw Zhuge Fengling standing at the back of the group with a forced smile. Although her face was full of smiles, she couldn't hide her bad luck. She must have been tormented by Xiao Budian. However, the gold-digging rat on her shoulder was nowhere to be seen. Zhuge Fengling bowed respectfully. Senior, I was fortunate enough to not let you down. Not bad. Lin Feng nodded and asked, Where's your gold-digging rat? Hearing this, Zhuge Fengling's face immediately revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Lin Feng thought to himself, Could have been eaten by those 2 gluttons? Xiao Budian smiled and said, It's here. As he spoke, he raised his hand and grabbed a rat's tail. There was a small golden rat hanging upside down from it. Zhuge Fengling hurriedly said, This is my spiritual pet with a blood contract. It's also my most important partner. Please return it to me. Lin Feng didn't reply and looked at Xiao Budian. What do you think? Xiao Budian smiled and said, They're quite interesting. Master, let them stay on the mountain. Hearing this, Lin Feng nodded. Then I'll leave it to you. Hearing this, Zhuge Fengling's eyes darkened and she almost fainted. Ignoring the despondent Zhuge Fengling, Lin Feng's attention landed on himself. A system notification sounded in his mind. The host has received a monthly lucky draw opportunity. A new round of lucky draws has been issued. Would you like to start the draw now? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. This includes a time in the mysterious sky time, space, grotto heaven. In the real world, it was still June. It had not yet entered July, but Lin Feng had previously spent some time guarding Wang Lin in the mysterious heaven time-like grotto that had accelerated time. Counting the time in the mysterious sky time, space, grotto heaven, it had been exactly 30 days since the last lucky draw. Previously, when Lin Feng formed his gold core, he had sat in the grotto heaven for more than 8 years. When the system calculated the completion time of the main storyline mission, it had also included these 8 years instead of calculating it according to the real world's 1 month. Lin Feng thought to himself, Now it seems that the system's internal time calculation is one with me and not synchronized with the outside world's time. Since he had the chance to draw, he naturally had to use it. Lin Feng's consciousness entered the lucky draw system and habitually glanced at the items to be drawn from the roulette system and the dice system. With this glance, Lin Feng's eyes were immediately stuck in the dice system and couldn't be pulled away. TSK, what am I seeing? Lin Feng grinned. Could my eyes be playing tricks on me? Silently, there was a stone in the 5th grid of the dice system, and Lin Feng could tell at a glance that this stone was actually a magic treasure embryo. Chapter 268. For Lin Feng, he received 2 pieces of news at the same time, 1 good news and 1 bad news. The good news was that the lottery system was very helpful this time, and he had obtained a magic treasure embryo. The life-sealing stone was refined with the richest life force, and its vitality was strong enough to rival that of the divine Wutong tree. According to the previous two system upgrades, Lin Feng had more or less figured out some patterns in the grades of the items he obtained. The grade of the items obtained by the lottery system was directly linked to Lin Feng's own cultivation, or rather, to the lottery system's current level. When Lin Feng had first obtained the system, the items he obtained were basically useful for the Qi refinement stage, and the better ones were for the foundation establishment stage. After Lin Feng advanced to the foundation establishment stage, after the first upgrade of the system, he did the lottery again. The prizes out of the lottery, foundation establishment stage items, are the lowest level, but the highest also won't be higher than the Aura's core stage, unless he used the lottery system to directly gamble on the good items already available in the system. But the probability of winning the lottery system was too low. After Lin Feng successfully formed his nascent soul, the system upgraded for the second time. This time, the situation was much better. Whether it was the dragon tendon rope or the ecliptic bell hammer, they were both good items. However, it could also be seen that the lottery system at the current level would obtain items suitable for the Yuanying stage. Even if they were not magic treasures for the Yuanying stage, they would still be good materials. Furthermore, items like the ecliptic bell hammer and the life-sealing stone, which were related to primordial spirit magic treasures, should be high-level prizes that the current level of the system could obtain. However, according to Lin Feng's speculation, the current system probably could not directly obtain primordial spirit-level treasures. Items like the ecliptic bell hammer and the life-sealing stone should already be of the highest grade. If he wanted more high-level items, he would have to wait for the system to upgrade again. Even so, it was enough to make Lin Feng feel gratified. Unfortunately, apart from the good news, there was also bad news. Lin Feng looked at the 3 sparkling dice in the dice system, smiling bitterly and speechlessly. If it was a roulette system, it would be perfect. But the dice system, this thing completely depends on luck. Lin Feng shook his head. I hate things that depend on luck. The roulette system was also a test of character, but a 1 in 16 chance and a 1 in 4 chance were two completely different concepts. Although he said that, Lin Feng still unhesitatingly put this chance into the dice system. Thank God. I still have to thank you for not putting the life-sealing stone on 1 and 2, these two numbers that are completely messing with me. With just a thought, Lin Feng had already manipulated the dice and started to throw them. He stared nervously at the 3 spinning dice. 5 points was actually a rather awkward number. It was too small, and there would be no hope if there was a slight mistake. For example, if the first die rolled out a 4, 5, or 6, it would be a tragedy. There was no need to look at the results of the other 2 dice. The bouncing dice very quickly stopped. Lin Feng held his breath and saw that after the first die landed, it was a big dot facing the sky. Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. There was some hope in his heart. Then, he saw the second die roll out. It was a 2. Seeing that, Lin Feng's heart suddenly jumped. There's hope. If the last die rolled out a 2, it would be a success. At that moment, Lin Feng was even more nervous than when he had first rolled the dice. At that time, his hope had been slim, but now it was right in front of him. More often than not, when hope was dashed, it would be a greater blow to the person. The dice weren't rolled one by one, but all rolled together, stopping at different times. Therefore, not long after the second die landed, the third die finally stopped rolling completely. Lin Feng looked carefully and let out a sigh of relief. It's done. The third die rolled out a 2. With a total of 5, Lin Feng successfully drew the life-sealing stone that he wanted the most. He withdrew his consciousness from the system and looked at the 3-inch square, 1-inch thick, gray-white spirit stone in his hand. Lin Feng smiled in satisfaction. Even with the roulette system, I can't get what I want 100% of the time. Today, I got it with the dice system. It seems that my luck is pretty good. Lin Feng smiled and picked up a life-sealing stone to look at it. The spirit stone's surface was as smooth as a mirror. There were no flaws, but there were no patterns or patterns. The gray-white surface emitted a faint purple light. From the outside, this fate-sealing stone looked very ordinary. One couldn't feel any powerful spiritual energy fluctuations coming from it. It looked like an ordinary stone brick, not a magical treasure embryo that could make all the cultivators in the world go crazy over it. But when Lin Feng used his magic power and divine sense to enter it, he could immediately feel the boundless vitality inside the spirit stone. It was as if it was nurturing a whole new universe. This was not the life force that a simple life could possess. Instead, it was a power that seemed to be able to reopen a new world and give birth to thousands of living beings. Lin Feng held the life-sealing stone and thought to himself, "It's a pity that I can't refine this life-sealing stone into a magic treasure now. Otherwise, I wonder how powerful it would be." Refining a magic treasure was very difficult. Even a real essence, soul, realm mighty figure might not be able to refine a magic treasure with a magic treasure embryo. Lin Feng had actually used an opportunistic method to refine the flame dragon sky armor. The vermilion flame demon eye was the eye of the primordial sky dragon. Lin Feng had taken the dragon tendon rope and the refinement technique black scale, which were also materials from the primordial sky dragon. He then used the mysterious sky treasure tree's branches and leaves as a medium to combine these materials together to form the flame dragon sky armor. If Lin Feng wanted to, he could disassemble all these materials and restore them to their original state. Therefore, strictly speaking, the flame dragon sky armor could not be considered a magic treasure. It was only a set of combined magic treasures with power comparable to magic treasures. It was a pseudo-magic treasure. The life-sealing stone was different. Even if Lin Feng wanted to do the same, he did not have other materials that matched the life-sealing stone. "I'll put it aside first." Lin Feng smacked his lips and put away the life-sealing stone. He looked back and saw Zhuge Fengling moving to the little guy's side with a fawning smile. "Senior brother, can you return little gold to me first?" The little guy rolled his eyes. "First, don't call me senior brother. I'm not your senior brother. Second, this little mouse of yours is quite fun. Let me play with it for a few days. I'll return it when I'm done." Zhuge Fengling gritted her teeth. The term senior brother could be used between disciples of different sections. It was a form of respect here. However, she had to lower her head when she was under someone else's roof. She forced a smile and said, "This, Dao brother, Little Gold and I have a blood contract. Our minds are connected." The little guy interrupted her. "I know. One party has to die to dissolve the blood contract. I'm not planning to eat it. What are you afraid of?" He looked at the mouse. "Although I don't know how it tastes, it's too small. Even if I skin it and remove its organs, it'll only have 2 or 3 grams of meat." After being stared at by the little guy's extremely professional gaze, that little gold digging mouse couldn't help but shrink its ears. It laughed awkwardly and said, Yeah, it's not even enough to fill the gaps between your teeth. Also, it's not delicious at all." The little guy grabbed the mouse's tail and lifted it into the air. He smiled and said, "But this little guy is good at finding things. Let me play with it for a few days." Zhuge Fengling forced a smile, but her smile was uglier than crying. The mouse suddenly sent a telepathic message to her. "Fengling, let's stay." Zhuge Fengling was furious. "You brat, you were bribed by those pieces of meat, weren't you?" No, how is that possible?" The gold-digging rat's voice sounded a little guilty. Over the past dozen or so days, after the initial fear, it had indeed followed little Buddyin and Tunton to eat and drink well, and enjoyed the blessings of food. The mouse hurriedly said, "Rumor has it that the master of the mysterious gate is extremely protective, and he's always very generous to his disciples. Look at his golden elixir period disciples. All of them have yuaning magic tools to protect themselves. Foundation establishment disciples all have golden elixir period magic tools. His eldest disciple made a bet with someone, and he'll personally escort him to the Cellerita's sword sect to support him." Hearing the mouse's words, Zhuge Fengling fell into silence. The mouse knew that she was moved and hurriedly struck while the iron was hot. Think about it. If you can also enter this Xianmen Tianzong, the benefits are huge. Just go and be happy. Plus, with such a backer, if someone offends him and gets taught a lesson, Wouldn't you be able to take advantage of them? Isn't that what you want? Hearing up to here, Zhuge Fengling's eyes lit up. The mouse saw that her eyes were shining and knew what she was thinking. Not only did it feel a bit of a headache, it hurriedly changed the topic and poured cold water on her already overheated brain. However, you have to first understand your position. Right now, we're just followers. Whether or not he'll accept you as a disciple is still unknown, it warned. Plus, you can't actively cause trouble for him, or else you'll suffer. Zhuge Fengling smiled. Don't worry. Just like you said, you just have to follow him. When the time comes, there'll definitely be benefits. As long as there's good stuff to take. So what if I'm a follower? The mouse laughed bitterly. Being a follower isn't even the sect master's follower. It's the sect master's disciple's follower. Zhuge Fengling had already adjusted her mentality. Don't worry. So what if I'm his disciple's follower? The key is that there are benefits. Plus, being a follower is also a way to level up. She snorted. Just like you. Aren't you at the same level as me now? The mouse smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything. Lin Feng saw that Zhuge Fengling had suddenly quieted down and was amazed. However, he didn't mind. With Xiao Budian watching her, she wouldn't be able to cause any big waves. His attention now fell on Yu Hongyan. Although you have Tianhao's help, Hongyan, what did you use to subdue the infernal aura? Chapter 269. After finishing the lottery, Lin Feng immediately turned his attention back to some things that he had neglected before. At first, when he heard that Yu Hongyan got the infinite aura fiend, he didn't care too much. After all, this girl's luck had reached 7 points, which was not low. But when he thought about it carefully, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. Even with Xiao Budian's help, it was not easy for Yu Hongyan, who was in the foundation establishment stage, to collect the infinite aura fiend. It was unrealistic for her to refine the infinite aura fiend in such a short period of time. Then the problem in front of him was, how could she bring the infinite aura fiend back? Listening to what they said, the infinite aura fiend was not stored in Xiao Budian's bronze void cauldron, but in Yu Hongyan's collection. In the past, in the Kunlun Mountains, Gao Fan, a disciple of the Wind God sect, wanted to collect the lunar true water. She had to use the evil path's secret technique, the common people's great furnace technique. As a result, there was a slight accident, and she failed on the verge of success, and even had her anus burst by the lunar true water. Later, Yang Qing was able to control and contain the lunar true water. In fact, he had to thank Gao Fan for laying the groundwork for him before, and had already refined the true water once. Even though Yu Hongyan's strength is stronger than Gao Fan's, but the infernal aura fiend is also more violent than the gentle lunar true water. Lin Feng is really curious what she uses to contain the infernal aura fiend. When Yu Hongyan heard Lin Feng ask her, she was silent for a moment, took out a dark red bracelet, and handed it to Lin Feng. Lin Feng took the bracelet, scanned it with his divine sense, and immediately discovered the mystery. Inside the bracelet, there was a large amount of infinite aura fiend. The dark red storm was like fog, like wind, but not like fog. It flashed with a dark red light. In the red light, thousands of ghosts roared and demons danced like an endless hell. Lin Feng pinched the bracelet and found that this bracelet was not a magic tool or magic weapon. There was no magic power restriction left by a cultivator, and there was no special spiritual energy fluctuation. The fact that it could contain and imprison the infinite astral baleful chi was entirely due to the special effect of the material of the bracelet itself. The little guy interrupted from his side. Fourth senior sister's bracelet was originally pure white, sparkling and translucent. After sealing in the infernal chi, it became dark red. Upon hearing these words, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat as he recalled that he had seen a type of spirit stone in the exchange system. It was called the Space Spirit Jade. The special thing about Space Spirit Jades was that they were completely empty on the inside. They were so large that they could contain anything in the world. Anything that was contained in them couldn't come out on their own. In other words, if the Space Spirit Jade was attacked from the outside, it would be very easy to shatter it. For example, Yu Hongyin couldn't use this ethereal jade bracelet to collect the infinite astral baleful qi. Doing so would only result in the destruction of the ethereal jade bracelet. However, if the infinite astral baleful qi was suppressed by Tiny Tot, Yu Hongyin could seize the opportunity to store the infinite astral baleful qi into the ethereal jade bracelet and seal it. Unlike the Tao Tai's devouring divine power, the space spirit jade could only store things passively. However, even if the infinite astral baleful qi recovered its vitality, it still couldn't rush out of the space spirit jade bracelet. Of course, the space spirit jade also had its limit. If the limit was exceeded, it could still be broken from the inside. In addition, the space spirit jade couldn't store living things. From a certain point of view, the space spirit jade was the most suitable material for making storage bags. It had a large storage space and was very stable. However, the space spirit jade was extremely rare, so rare that it was almost extinct. A piece of space spirit jade the size of a fingernail was already very rare. A bracelet as big as the one on Yu Hongyin's hand, which was entirely carved out of the space spirit jade, was extremely valuable. Lin Feng noticed that while holding the space spirit jade bracelet, Yu Hongyin's emotions weren't very high. The gaze in her pair of red eyes was extremely complicated. Within anger and hatred, there was also a bit of blankness. This kind of emotion obviously couldn't be directed at her brother, who passed away. Lin Feng sighed. From the looks of it, this space spirit jade bracelet was very likely something that Zhang Lai gave her. No matter how much hatred she had, no matter how much anger she had, in the deepest part of her heart, there was still a place for that person. Perhaps it was because of the deep love in the past that after Zhang Lai sacrificed the people of the Society of the Strong-Gale, Yu Hongyin would be so angry and hate him so deeply. Lin Feng said lightly, "The material of this bracelet is special. It was carved out of spirit stone called space spirit jade. It can store anything. It can be considered a pretty good treasure. Hongyin, you just need to make good use of it." Yu Hongyin came to her senses. Lin Feng was telling her that objects themselves don't have a mind of their own. There was no need to transfer the emotions that were directed at people onto the object. She pursed her lips and nodded, not saying anything. With one look, Lin Feng knew that she still hadn't gotten over it in her heart, but he didn't intend to force her on this matter. He only carefully guided Yu Hongyin on how to refine the infinite baleful qi for her own use. Yu Hongyin listened attentively, her emotions gradually calming down. Afterwards, everyone dispersed. Zhuge Fengling left with Xiao, Budian, and Tunten, and Jieyu also returned to his cave dwelling on the mountain to rest. Although he was Lin Feng's mount, he still had the benefits that he deserved. Yu Hongyin put away the space spirit jade bracelet that sealed the infinite baleful qi and walked towards the direction of the Medicine Valley alone. Even though Lin Feng's body stayed where it was and did not move, but his consciousness followed her to the Medicinal Valley. After Yu Hongyin entered the valley, she stopped at the entrance of the valley and did not continue forward, staring blankly at Yang Qing, who was concentrating on cultivating medicinal herbs in the Medicinal Valley. As she gazed at Yang Qing, Yu Hongyin's scarlet eyebrows became much gentler, and a faint look of guilt and shame appeared in her eyes. Lin Feng silently watched this scene and transmitted to Yu Hongyin, "Don't mention this to Yang Qing before the matter is settled. You don't need to carry too much psychological burden." Although Lin Feng estimated that the destruction of the Cloud Water Cave was at least 70% related to Zhang Lai, Lin Feng decided to handle this matter carefully before completely proving it. This would be beneficial to both Yang Qing and Yu Hongyin. Yu Hongyin took a deep breath and nodded silently. Although there was no movement, Yang Qing still noticed Yu Hongyin's arrival at this time. She stood up and smiled warmly. "Fourth senior sister, have you returned to the mountain?" At this moment, Yu Hongyin's emotions had completely calmed down, and she said, "We just arrived not long ago. Master said that you want to look for the infinite baleful qi. Did you find anything?" Yang Qing asked curiously. Yu Hongyin smiled slightly. "Tianhao gave way to me, and in the end, I was the one who collected a part of the infinite baleful qi. Yang Qing smiled and said, "That's good. After all, you returned with a full load." In the face of his gentle smile, Yu Hongyin turned his head slightly unnaturally to the other side, and his gaze suddenly fell on the ground beside Yang Qing's feet. There were two grasshoppers that were hand-folded by two people. The craftsmanship was exquisite, and it looked very lifelike. "You have this kind of hobby?" Yu Hongyin looked at Yang Qing curiously and amusedly. Yang Qing's face was a little red, and she smiled and said, "I folded them for fun. Seeing that she was a little embarrassed, Yu Hongyin smiled and shook his head and did not ask further. On the contrary, Yang Qing squatted down and picked up the two grasshoppers. She looked at them in a daze, and after a long time, she suddenly said, "My junior sister likes it very much. I folded these things for her." "Oh, that's right. It was when I was apprenticed under the Cloudwater Cave." Yang Qing simply sat cross-legged on the ground, and her eyes looked in the direction of the Cloudwater Cave. She said in a daze, "At that time, because I was not good at fighting, many people laughed at me. Only she would not laugh at me. Instead, she would argue with others because of me. She would patiently guide me in my practice of magic. When I was not practicing, I would weave all kinds of things with grass and leaves for her. I would weave them there, and she would watch from the side. We did not speak, but I just felt very comfortable and very peaceful." Yu Hongyin looked at Yang Qing, who was immersed in memories and had a warm smile at the corner of her mouth. Affected by her emotions, she also remembered the beautiful past of the past. But soon her mood fell. She looked at Yang Qing, and her eyes were filled with shame again. She also, Yu Hongyin said with difficulty. He did not know what to say. Yang Qing shook her head, and her eyes were blank. "I don't know. The Cloudwater Cave was burned to a white ground. When I collected the corpses of my fellow disciples, many of them had been burned to ashes, and the number of corpses was also a little less. It's funny to say that I had to set up a monument for everyone, but many of them were empty graves. If they were still alive, they would probably come and beat me up, right? But I really hope that I can get beaten up a few more times." Yang Qing said softly, "I only didn't set up a monument for her. Whether it's comforting in my heart or deceiving myself, I just hope that nothing happens to her." Lin Feng's divine sense had been paying attention to this side. When he heard this, his heart suddenly moved slightly, and he vaguely captured a trace of inspiration. He carefully stared at Yang Qing for a moment, and a surprised expression appeared on his face. Sure enough, I was wondering why I always felt that he was strange before. So it was not my illusion. But if that's the case, how did he build his beer platform back then? Lin Feng's will had already reached a perfect balance with Mount Yujing, the mysterious heaven treasure tree, and the cyclic purple qi that spread all around the mountain. Without batting an eyelid, he used his own magic power to explore Yang Qing's body again. After a while, Lin Feng came to a realization. So that's where his 9-point root bone is reflected. He really hit it well, but it's really heaven-defying. When he thought of this, Lin Feng remembered that Yang Qing only had a 5-point will, and this made him feel a toothache. "I have to plan well. I can't let this go to waste." As Lin Feng was thinking, a voice transmission crystal on him suddenly reacted, indicating that someone was trying to contact him. Lin Feng activated the voice transmission crystal, and the voice of Heavenly Trade Pavilion's manager, Song Fu, came from it. "Sec Leader Lin, Song Fu has disturbed you." "It's fine, what's the matter?" Lin Feng asked. Song Fu replied respectfully, "The Great Qin Dynasty has sent someone to Sand Continent City to act as a guide to guide Sect Leader Lin and your disciples to the entrance of the ancient Desolate Sea world to participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly. They are unable to find Sect Leader Lin, so they asked Pavilion Leader Lin to contact you on their behalf. Please forgive us for being presumptuous." Chapter 270. The Desolate Sea Assembly. Lin Feng lightly raised his head. It had already been more than 20 days since he received this news from Tan Ingjia on Cloud Traversing Peak. He remembered that, at that time, Tan Ingjie said that the ancient desolate sea world would open in about a month's time. Counting the days, it was indeed about to open. This desolate sea assembly was a great opportunity to raise the reputation of the sect's disciples. Lin Feng had to grasp it well. Thinking of this, Lin Feng nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Song." As he spoke, Lin Feng waved his sleeve. A purple aura passed through the endless void and quickly arrived outside the Sand Continent city. It formed a path and hung in the sky. A crack appeared in the space, and Song Fu stepped out. He bowed towards the path formed by the purple aura. "Sorry for disturbing, Sect Master Lin." A middle-aged man stood beside him. He used his magic power to lift him into the air. He also bowed toward the path formed by the purple aura. Then, he followed behind Song Fu. The two of them stepped onto the path formed by the purple aura. There was no need for them to move forward. The purple aura swept them through the void and brought them to Jade Capital Mountain. The moment the middle-aged man appeared, Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. "It's him." Speaking of which, they had met once before. However, that was a long time ago. It was when Lin Feng had yet to reach Foundation Establishment. He had gone to the Great Swamp of the Ancient Region to complete a side mission. There, Lin Feng met Kong Nanhua and Yu Hongyan for the first time. At the same time, he also met the middle-aged man in front of him. He was the former lieutenant of the Shenwu military, Dao Jiqiang. In the Great Swamp of the Ancient Region, Lin Feng used the Yin-Yang life and death formation and buried an entire battalion of Shenwu military cultivators from the Great Zhou dynasty. Dao Jiqiang survived because he had left the main force. Afterward, he left the Shenwu military and disappeared. Unexpectedly, he had joined the Great Qin dynasty. When Dao Jiqiang saw Lin Feng, his mind was filled with thoughts. "I never expected that the young Taoist I met back then would be such an important person." But this time, Dao Jiqiang felt that Lin Feng had changed a lot compared to 2 years ago. Not only had he changed from a white robe to a purple robe, but his temperament had also changed. But Dao Jiqiang couldn't tell what the changes were. He could only laugh at himself in his heart. This kind of divine power is really not something I can comprehend. His mind was filled with countless thoughts. He bowed respectfully in front of Lin Feng. "Junior Dao Jiqiang greets the master of Xianmen Gate." Lin Feng looked at him and faintly smiled. "Where are you currently working?" Dao Jiqiang replied respectfully. "This junior is currently working in Prime Minister Wu's residence." "Oh." Lin Feng sized up Dao Jiqiang a couple of times, thinking, looks like he's doing pretty well in the Qin dynasty. Even though his cultivation is still at the Foundation Establishment stage, his ability to do things seems to have gained Wu Qingrou's trust. The person who sent the invitation to the Celeritas Sword Sect, Tan Ingjie, is a Yuanying stage cultivator. Even though he doesn't know what level of cultivation the person in charge of receiving the Celeritas Sword Sect is at, but presumably it won't be too low. Under these kind of circumstances, Wu Qingrou sending a Foundation Establishment stage cultivator to be Xianmen Tianzong's guide. If there was no special reason, then it would clearly contain the intention of belittling and looking down on him. But looking at Wu Qingrou's way of doing things, she isn't such a petty person. She wouldn't use such crude and unpresentable methods. Looking at it like this, then there is only one explanation. Dao Jiqiang is doing very well under Wu Qingrou's hands and is highly regarded by Wu Qingrou. She doesn't look down on him because his cultivation is slightly low and instead entrusted him with heavy responsibilities. High cultivation talent. High cultivation in the Tao only represents that the person is strong. It can't explain the specific ability to do things. There are a lot of things that can't be done well with just strength. The more trivial the matter, the more this is so. Lin Feng nodded his head. "You are my Xianmen Tianzong's guide?" Dao Jiqiang respectfully replied. "This time around the Wasteland Sea Spell Assembly, Junior will be in charge of your sect's reception work. If there is anything in your sect, you can instruct me." Song Fu smiled on the side, saying, "Sect Leader Lin, my mission has already been accomplished, so I'll take my leave now. Sorry for the inconvenience." Lin Feng slightly nodded his head. "Thank you, Mr. Song." Dao Jiqiang on the side also said, "Thank you, Mr. Song before." Song Fu chuckled, saying, "You're welcome." Out of politeness, his body didn't move, and he didn't break open space and leave. Lin Feng pointed with his finger, and the purple chi flashed again, sending Song Fu out. At this time, he turned around to look at Dao Jiqiang and asked, "Other than my Xianmin Tianzong, which other sects have been invited to participate in the Wasteland Sea Spell Assembly?" Dao Jiqiang was silent for a moment before saying, "This, Junior isn't too sure." Coming to receive sect leader Lin's group was also under Minister Wu's orders. "I don't understand the other situations." Lin Feng indifferently swept his gaze over him. "You're an old friend that I've met once. Why do you need to lie to me?" Dao Jiqiang bitterly smiled at his heart. With Lin Feng's current status and the strength he displayed, he called Dao Jiqiang an old friend. There are a lot of things that Dao Jiqiang can't beat around the bush anymore, otherwise it would be ungrateful. Celeritas Sword Sect, Sun Moon Sword Sect, Northern Militant Imperial Court, and Hua family have all received invitations. Dao Jiqiang sighed. "There should be others, but Junior really isn't sure. I only know that there are more than 4. Lin Feng nodded his head. His expression didn't change, but his thoughts spun rapidly in his mind. He already knew about Celeritas Sword Sect, so he could put this aside for now. Sun Moon Sword Sect, along with Celeritas Sword Sect, were the few sword sects in the present age. They were also members of the 9 Heaven Sword Alliance, but they had always been closer to the Great Qin dynasty. Generally speaking, they were considered to be the spokesperson of the Great Qin dynasty in the 9 Heaven Sword Alliance. Most of the 9 Heaven Sword Alliance members' sects were located within the borders of the Great Qin dynasty, so the 9 Heaven Sword Alliance as a whole adopted a tacit attitude towards this. Sun Moon Sword Sect accepting the invitation was within expectations. The Great Qin dynasty could forget anyone, but they wouldn't forget their own underlings. Northern Militant Royal Court. This is a bit interesting, Lin Feng said in his heart. Did the Great Zhou dynasty do something that made the Great Qin feel uneasy? The Northern Militant Royal Court was a large dynasty power north of the Great Zhou and Great Qin dynasties. It was bordered by the Zhou and Qin dynasties at the same time. Although its strength was a bit weaker than the 2 dynasties, it was still a power that couldn't be underestimated in the Divine Land. The Northern Militant Royal Court strength was roughly equal to the Heavenly Sword Sect, and was even stronger than the Celeritas Sword Sect, the Wind God Sect, and the Yu family. The Great Qin inviting the Northern Militant Royal Court to participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly was undoubtedly a sign of goodwill. In the conflict between Zhou and Qin, the Northern Militant Royal Court had always been one of the main points of the game. As for the Hua family, it was one of the 4 great families of the Great Qin dynasty. It resided in the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty and was a deep-rooted colossus. But the Hua family's participation made Lin Feng more interested than the Northern Militant Royal Court's invitation. This was because among the 4 great families, the Hua family was the closest to the Great Qin dynasty's royal family and had the closest relationship. It was also the sworn enemy of the Yu family, which was also one of the 4 great families. Even the Shi family, which was related to the Yu family by marriage, was not on good terms. Both being the Great Qin dynasty's underlings, the nature of the Hua family was completely different from the Sun Moon Sword Sect. Compared to the 9 Heaven Sword Alliance, the conflict between the Great Qin dynasty and the 4 great families was much more intense. From a scene on the cloud traversing peak, the conflict between Wu Qingru and Shi Chongyun was almost public. You should be biased towards the rich and powerful families. Lin Feng pondered, but looking at Wu Qingru's invitation list, the rich and powerful families didn't get any advantage. Going back on his word, being hesitant, such a stupid action, it really doesn't seem like his style. Lin Feng suddenly asked Dao Jiqiang, apart from the whole family, did the other 3 families receive an invitation? After a moment of silence, Dao Jiqiang replied, Junior doesn't dare to be certain, but as far as I know, they didn't. Lin Feng nodded and didn't say anything. He thought, there are 3 possibilities. First, the Qin Emperor is pressuring Wu Qingru. After all, the true master of the Great Qin dynasty is still the Qin emperor. Second, Wu Qingru is compensating the other 3 families in other places. Third, Lin Feng's pupils slightly contracted. I really don't hope it's the third possibility. Lin Feng thought for a moment and made up his mind. He then said to Dao Jiqiang, "When is the Wasteland Sea Assembly going to be held?" Dao Jiqiang respectfully replied, "In 7 days." Lin Feng nodded slightly. "You can stay on my Yujing Mountain first. When the time comes, I will bring my disciples with me and set off with you." After settling Dao Jiqiang down, Lin Feng wasn't worried that he would cause trouble or act as a spy. On Yujing Mountain, all of his movements were in Lin Feng's eyes. However, Lin Feng had to think about who to bring to the Wasteland Sea Assembly. The others were easy to decide, but the key was whether to bring Zhu Yi. This made Lin Feng hesitate. This was mainly because Zhu Yi had the heavy responsibility of teaching the new disciples. Apart from him, no one else was particularly suitable for this job. Being able to cultivate and being able to teach others to cultivate were 2 completely different concepts. To enter the ancient Wasteland Sea Assembly, I still need Zhu Yi to go. On one hand, it's because of his great luck. On the other hand, Xiao Yin isn't here. If Zhu Yi doesn't go, there's only 1 golden elixir period disciple left. Although he's strong, he's still too weak. Lin Feng had already inquired about how the Wasteland Sea Assembly's slots were decided through fights. Any disciple under the Yuanying stage could participate. However, for the sake of fairness, the competition between Golden Elixir period disciples and Foundation Establishment disciples was held separately. As for Qi refinement cultivators, there was no need. Even if they went in, they would need someone to take care of them, so there was no point. After finding Zhu Yi and explaining the whole story, Zhu Yi thought for a while and said, "Disciple is also interested in going to the ancient Wasteland Sea Assembly. As for the new disciples, Master doesn't have to worry. I will leave some homework for them to comprehend on their own. With Mr. Kong and Mr. Meow watching, even if there's something they don't understand, they won't go astray." Yuanying cultivators could not enter the ancient Wasteland Sea Assembly. Since Lin Feng was personally leading the team, Kong Nanhua and Miao Shihao would naturally stay on the mountain. Ever since Lin Feng returned to the mountain, he had not seen Miao Shihao. Although no one mentioned it, Lin Feng could naturally sense that Miao Shihao was in closed-door training. Speaking of Shihao, I wonder how his closed-door training is going. As Lin Feng was thinking, his heart suddenly stirred. He looked at the mysterious sky treasure tree above his head. Chapter 271. Kong Nanhua and Miao Shihao had both participated in the opening ceremony of the Sand Continent and made contributions to the sect. Hence, Lin Feng allowed them to enter the mysterious sky, timeless light cave once. Miao Shihao had used this opportunity to enter the mysterious sky, timeless light cave for seclusion not long ago. Lin Feng knew that he wanted to use this opportunity to break through the bottleneck and advance to the middle stage of Yuanying in one fell swoop. After obtaining Lin Feng's heavenly true water, Miao Shihao had not only perfected the surging waves water dharma art, but also made a breakthrough in his own Dao technique, the ethereal illusion technique. After the battle in the Sand Continent, Miao Shihao had successfully stood on the doorstep of the middle stage of Yuanying. Sure enough, Miao Shihao had successfully broken through during this seclusion. A stream of 9 heavens clear qi passed through the endless void and directly entered the mysterious sky, timeless light cave. There, Miao Shihao sat quietly on a branch of the little mysterious sky treasure tree. The gate of heaven on top of his head was open and endless clear qi entered his body. Lin Feng could clearly see a figure of light appear above Miao Shihao's head. That was a handsome boy. He looked to be only 3 or 4 years old, but under the nourishment of the clear air, he was rapidly growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a short period of time, the boy had already grown to the age of 7 or 8, and his facial features were becoming more and more similar to the current Miao Shihao. Lin Feng's pupils shrank slightly. He was surprised to see that there was a pattern of a full moon on the boy's forehead, emitting a faint golden glow. As Miao Shihao's yuaning continued to grow, the pattern of the full moon was also constantly changing from a full moon to a crescent moon, and then from a crescent moon to a crescent moon. In the end, almost disappeared, but the next moment it reappeared and gradually became a full moon. The waxing and waning of the moon kept repeating. Lin Feng frowned slightly and thought to himself, the ethereal illusion technique is only a cultivation technique. Is this changing full moon the foundation of Miao Shihao? At this time, Miao Shihao finally stopped. Yuaning slowly descended into the crown of his head. He opened his eyes and let out a clear cry that sounded like a phoenix's cry. When he came out of the mysterious Heaven-Time cave, he saw Lin Feng and Zhu Yi looking up at him under the tree. He couldn't help but cover his mouth and giggle. "Oh, Sectmaster, you're back? I'm really happy and scared to make you wait here for me to come out of seclusion. My little heart is beating so fast." The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched twice. Fortunately, the heaven and earth-shattering spell did not directly hit his head. "I don't have the time to specifically wait for you." After talking about the Wasteland Sea Assembly, Miao Shihao finally became more serious. He nodded and said, "With me and Nanhua watching over them, there's no need to worry about the new disciples. You could take Xiao Yi away." After thinking for a moment, his expression became a bit more serious as he slowly said, "Sect Master, you should pay more attention to Wu Qingru." Lin Feng's eyes flashed. "Oh, you seem to be implying something." Miao Shihao curled his lips. "I've seen this name in the internal information exchanges of Taishu Temple. However, the information is incomplete, so it's not easy to determine his true relationship with Taishu Temple. In the end, is it because he has some connection with the Void Temple, or is it because the Void Temple views him as a target worthy of attention? I can't say for sure either. But the two parties who exchange information are of very high level, and one of them is Pang Jia." Lin Feng made a sound of acknowledgement. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly asked, "Shihao, you have the ability to grasp information about the disciples of Taishu Temple that have entered the world. How much do you know about the internal affairs of White Cloud Mountain, the main gate of Taishu Temple?" Miao Shihao shook his head regretfully. "That broken place can be said to be the most mysterious place in the Divine Land. Brother Shihao, I can't do anything about it. To be honest, other than the group of boorish people in Taishu Temple, the last time outsiders entered White Cloud Mountain was almost 1,000 years ago." Lin Feng nodded without saying a word. Miao Shihao asked curiously, "Sect Master, why are you suddenly asking about this?" "Yin Mingyue is going back to White Cloud Mountain. I think there will be a lot of excitement in Taishu Temple." Lin Feng didn't hide it from him and explained the reason directly. "I'm very interested in the details of the internal conflict between the conservative and radical factions of Taishu Temple." Miao Shihao heard this news and immediately laughed gloatingly. "Let them fight each other." His expression suddenly changed. He glanced at Lin Feng and said in an unfriendly tone, "Sect Master, don't tell me you've fallen for that girl, Yin Mingyue." Lin Feng rolled his eyes, too lazy to bother with him. Lin Feng had already summed up his experience in talking to this guy, who was a little off the rails. The length of the conversation had to be controlled within 3 minutes. If it was less than 3 minutes, this guy could still maintain a certain degree of seriousness and have a pleasant conversation. After 3 minutes, he would completely enter a funny mode. Under such circumstances, it was better to just ignore him. Ignoring Miao Shihao, who was being paranoid, Lin Feng flew up and entered Black Heaven's Time Light Grotto Heaven. There, Yu Hongyan was quietly meditating and cultivating. Lin Feng scanned with his mana and knew that Yu Hongyan's refining of the Inferno Baleful Qi is already on the right track. Not only that, she even broke through her Dao Technique bottleneck because of this and is also attempting to break through realms, condensing a pill cauldron and achieving foundation establishment late-stage cultivation. When she first came to Yujing Mountain, Yu Hongyan had already built her spirit platform and cultivated to the middle stage of foundation establishment. Now that she had comprehended the 8 trigrams of the great way of heaven and earth that Lin Feng had taught her, her understanding and knowledge of the great way of heaven and earth had improved greatly. The battle with Wang Jianan on Cloud Traversing Peak had consolidated her progress in Tao and broken through the bottleneck in her state of mind. She was ready to condense her pill cauldron. After collecting the infinite baleful qi and successfully refining it, even the reserve of magic power had been completely completed. It was extremely abundant. Under such circumstances, it was completely natural for Yu Hongyan to condense her pill cauldron. Lin Feng was only guarding her in case something happened. Lin Feng's divine sense and mana probed into Yu Hongyan's sea of energy. He saw that there stood a black 9-story spiritual platform shining with purple light, the top of which was burning with raging flames. At the top of this first-grade spirit platform, within the flames, there were countless red lights that looked like wind and fog that kept swaying, making the sound of the wind. Within the red lights, there were countless ghosts wailing. These ghosts fell into the blazing fire at the top of Yu Hongyan's spirit platform. Not only did they not feel pain, but they also smiled as if they had been freed. Some of them looked peaceful, some were smiling, and some even had tears streaming down their faces. They were extremely excited. When these ghosts merged into the blazing fire, the fire became even more ferocious. Seeing this, Lin Feng nodded to himself. Yu Hongyan's magic power had already completely refined and controlled this part of the infinite baleful qi. The power of the infinite baleful qi did not decrease, but the countless ghosts imprisoned within it were freed because of this. They no longer had to suffer in the infinite hell. The moment before they were released from purgatory, they fed the spirit qi that they had accumulated over the years back to Yin Mingwei, causing Yu Hongyan's magic power to become even stronger. At the top of the black spirit platform, the scarlet flames wrapped in rolling red light gradually condensed into the image of a pill cauldron in the air. The flames and the red wind poured into the image of the pill cauldron, causing the image of the pill cauldron to become clearer and clearer. In the end, it completely materialized and settled on top of Yu Hongyan's spirit platform. Within the pill cauldron, the infinite baleful qi kept spurting out. At the bottom of the pill cauldron, there was still an endless blazing fire burning. Countless inscriptions were carved on the body of the pill cauldron, but they were the endless principles of the universe. Yu Hongyan's closed eyes suddenly opened. In her scarlet pupils, there were 2 dancing flames. With a single thought, a wave of infinite baleful qi immediately came out of her body and circulated around her. At this moment, Yu Hongyan had officially reached the late stage of foundation building. She only needed to advance one more step, and she would be able to form the golden elixir. When she saw Lin Feng, a rare smile blossomed on her face. She called out, "Master!" Lin Feng looked at her and nodded in relief. "Not bad. You've done well." After bringing Yu Hongyan out of the mysterious heaven time, light, grotto heaven, Lin Feng summoned all the disciples to sit down and listen to his orders. Zhu Yi had already settled the new second-generation disciples. Kong Nanhua and Miao Shihao were left on the mountain. Lin Feng brought Xiao Buddy and Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, and Tunten, together with Zhuge Fengling and Dao Jiqiang. The group left Yujing Mountain and headed for the northern border of the Great Qin dynasty, where the entrance to the ancient desolate sea world was. This time, apart from Jieyu, Lin Feng also brought the Kuei Ox King along as a mount. The 2 demon kings carried Lin Feng and his disciples eastward, causing a huge commotion once again. It's said that keeping a low profile and doing things in a high profile is the way to go, Lin Feng thought to himself. I'm already unscrupulous in order to increase my reputation points. Soon, the group arrived at the northern border of the Great Qin dynasty, Yu Prefecture. 1,000 miles north, there was a place called the Northwind Sea. Although it was called a sea, it was actually a large lake. That was where the entrance to the ancient desolate sea world was. As they neared Yu Prefecture, Lin Feng's heart stirred slightly. He looked in the direction of Yu Prefecture City. Although the other party did not deliberately release their auras, the terrifying magic power undulations were undoubtedly that of a primordial soul expert. The other party also sensed the presence of Lin Feng's group. A figure flew above Yu Prefecture and said with a smile, "I wonder which clan has arrived." The newcomer was an old man with white hair and beard at the Yuanying stage. He smiled as he watched Xianmin Tianzong and the others on Jieyu's and Kuei Ox King's backs approach. Although this old man was old, his smile was unbridled. His aura was like an unsheathed steel blade, filled with killing intent and the stench of blood, as if he wanted to kill all living beings in front of him. He was also stepping on a black saber light, which kept twisting in the air like a black bolt of lightning. It was overflowing with ferocious might and oppressive hostility. When Lin Feng saw this, he already had an idea in his heart. According to the rumors, the Hua clan's core Taoist law, the Azura tactics, is one of the few Taoist laws in the world that focuses on killing. The murderous nature of the Hua clan is heavy, not any weaker than General Xie of the Divine Martial Army that I met in the Great Swamp of the ancient region. The Hua clan's top martial arts technique, the Azura World Annihilation Blade, and General Xie's heaven-defying absolute sword, one blade and one sword, are the two most murderous techniques in the Divine Land. The Hua clan's Yuanying ancestors' gaze lingered on Jieyu and Kuei Ox King for a second. Then he looked at Jieyu and said with a smile, "Are you Xianmin Tianzong's fellow Taoist?" Chapter 272. Among the Great Qin's 4 big families, the Hua family cultivated the Azura tactics, which focused on killing and killing. Their killing intent was extremely heavy, and their top martial art, the Azura World Annihilation Blade, and the ancient killing god gate's heaven-defying absolute sword, one blade and one sword, were known as the 2 martial arts with the heaviest killing intent. General Xie, whom Lin Feng met in the great swamp of the ancient godly slaying sect, had obtained the inheritance of the extinct ancient godly slaying sect. However, General Xie was only in the Golden Elixir period, which was completely different from the Yuanying stage patriarch of the Hua clan. Facing Jieyu and Kuei Nyo King, the 2 great demon kings, his eyes flashed with a demonic brilliance. He seemed to be itching to fight, and his killing intent almost condensed into a solid substance. Jieyu and Kuei Nyo King growled at the same time, revealing their anger. Everyone in the Hua clan cultivated the Tao of slaughter. If they did not restrain themselves, they would definitely cause great suffering and eventually be attacked by everyone in the world. That was how the ancient godly slaying sect was destroyed. The Hua clan patriarch learned from the experience and led the entire clan to guard the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty. There were many spatial cracks between the human race's divine land and the demon race's vast Tianwan continent. It was all slaughter, it was all blood. The Hua clan aimed their blades at the demon race, using this to increase their own Tao techniques and sharpen their own martial Tao blades. The Great Qin dynasty was also happy to have the Hua clan as a fence to guard the southern border. When the demon race had the intention to attack the Hua clan, the Qin dynasty would also decisively support the Hua clan. Over the past 1,000 years, the Hua clan had killed thousands of demon race, but they did not kill many. Thus, they left a good reputation among the local people. Looking at Jieyu and Kuei Nyo King, the Yuanying stage patriarch of the Hua clan had a bloodthirsty impulse. However, it was only for a moment before he regained his composure. He smiled and said, "Are you Xianmin Tianzong?" Jiefeng replied in a low, muffled voice, "Yes. Are you a Taoist from the Hua clan?" "That's right." The old man smiled, but his smile was not friendly. The leader of the celestial sect of wonders is really arrogant. You didn't even come to the Barren Sea assembly in person. Do you have so much confidence in your disciples? The little guy giggled. That Hua family's ancestor looked over with ill intent, and his killing intent overflowed into the heavens. The little guy did not seem to care at all, and looked at him while giggling. This child has such a firm will. The Hua family's ancestors' eyes slightly narrowed, And then he heard the little guy laugh and say, "Open your eyes wide and look clearly. My master is right in front of you. It's just that your eyesight is bad." The patriarch of the whole clan was shocked when he heard this. His gaze swept around again and finally landed on the indifferent Lin Feng. It wasn't because Lin Feng's aura was shocking. On the contrary, it was because Lin Feng was the only one who didn't show any signs of magic power. The whole family patriarch couldn't see the depth of his cultivation at all. Looking at Lin Feng's position, the others faintly regarded him as the center of attention. Naturally, he couldn't be an ordinary person without any magic power. However, as a Yuanying stage cultivator, he couldn't see the depth of his cultivation at all. At this time, the whole family patriarch finally reacted, and a faint cold sweat appeared on his back. He awkwardly stood where he was. He didn't know if he should leave or stay. After years of cultivation, his personality was like a steel blade that pressed forward with indomitable will. He really couldn't say words of apology, but if he said a few words of courtesy and stubbornness, then he would be courting death. This Yuanying stage ancestor was frozen in place for a moment and didn't know what to do. "Get back here. Don't continue to embarrass me." At this time, a cold voice suddenly came from Yuzhou City. The voice wasn't loud, but when it fell into everyone's ears, they felt a chill in their hearts. The other party's killing intent was so heavy that it almost caused the weather to change. Lin Feng lightly said, "Are you the Azura Taoist Huixiu? I am a master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng. Greetings." With the appearance of his own primordial spirit ancestor, the Hua family's Yuanying stage ancestor finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although he knew that he would inevitably be criticized when he went back, but at least he did not have to stay here in a dilemma. He respectfully bowed to Lin Feng, and his figure landed back in Yuzhou City. In the sky, a large black crack suddenly appeared, as if it had been split by a knife. A young man who looked to be only 25 or 26 years old appeared in front of Lin Feng. He had a hawk nose and deep eyes. His black clothes were like ink, and his face was cold and expressionless. After staring at Lin Feng for a long time, he opened his mouth and said, "Sect Leader Lin, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Huixiu." He stood there like a god of death from hell who had walked through countless mountains of corpses and seas of blood. His whole body was filled with a kind of terrifying power that could kill and destroy everything. Lin Feng looked at Huixiu silently. He knew that this person was the current leader of the Hua family. He was a big bull who had reached the nascent soul realm 1,000 years ago. He was the leader who led the Hua family to the southern border to kill the demon clan. "Azura Taoist, I've heard a lot about you," Lin Feng said lightly. Huixiu stared at him for a long time, and the killing intent around him suddenly disappeared. He nodded and said, "It's just a small reputation. It's not worth mentioning. It was my family's younger generation that offended you. I hope Sect Leader Lin won't take it to heart." Hearing Huixiu apologize on behalf of the Yuanying stage ancestor, Lin Feng didn't feel the slightest joy or pride. Instead, his heart trembled slightly. This Huixiu has completely surpassed the shackles of his Azura tactics. His killing intent was at his will, advancing and retreating freely. He could do whatever he wanted without the slightest hindrance. Huixiu said calmly, "My family and I will stay in the city for a few days. Sect Leader Lin, please do as you please." After saying that, his body disappeared in the air without any hesitation. Lin Feng watched Huixiu's figure disappear. After a moment of silence, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Huixiu, interesting. Looks like you're about to break through your current realm." Lin Feng didn't care about the Hua family's horses that were currently stationed in Yuzhou City. He led his people and landed in Yuzhou City. As soon as he arrived in the city, Lin Feng felt waves of suppressed killing intent. Some were strong, some were weak. The strong ones were at the Yuanying stage, while the weak ones were only at the foundation establishment stage. They all had one thing in common, and that was that they were very sullen and worked very hard to suppress their killing intent. These people were like wild horses that had been put on a leash. They wanted to break free from their restraints at all times. However, the wild horses wanted to gallop to their heart's content, while these people wanted to kill and turn the entire Yujo city into a river of blood. These bloodthirsty people were undoubtedly cultivators of the Hua family. The only person who could suppress them from acting rashly was the Hua family's primordial soul ancestor, Hua Xiao. This Hua Xiao has some tricks up his sleeve. Lin Feng thought for a moment and already understood Hua Xiao's plan. Firstly, controlling one's killing intent was also a form of training for the clan's disciples. At the end of the day, when cultivators cultivated, they cultivated and comprehended Dao techniques. They weren't controlled by Dao techniques. Secondly, this was like training an eagle. They used hunger to make the eagle more ferocious. The Hua family's disciples, whose killing intent was suppressed by Hua Xiao now, would definitely be able to unleash 120% of their strength when the Desolate Sea assembly officially began. At the side, Dao Jiqiang smiled bitterly and said, "Actually, there was a special administrative order to tell the residents of Yuzhou City to live in seclusion. However, the Hua family has gained a good reputation for killing demons all these years. As a result, the local residents aren't afraid of these killing gods at all. Instead, they see them as heroes." Lin Feng smiled faintly. "That's reasonable. If disaster doesn't befall them, people will always ignore the danger." Dao Jiqiang wanted to say something more, but his expression suddenly changed slightly. Lin Feng followed his gaze and saw a group of people walking past the street. All of them were dressed in white and had a cold aura. However, the fluctuations of their magic power were extremely powerful. Lin Feng could conclude that the Dao techniques these cultivators cultivated were definitely extraordinary. Looking at Dao Jiqiang, Lin Feng waited for the other party to give an answer. It seemed that Dao Jiqiang had recognized their origins. "Those people are cultivators from the Tianqi sect." Dao Jiqiang took a deep breath and said slowly, "It seems that they have also received an invitation." Lin Feng thought to himself, "It seems that no matter who takes the initiative, there will be a big move in the near future." The Tianqi sect was located on the heavenly lake of the Snow Mountain. It was famous in the northern snowy plains of the human race's divine land. It had been established for tens of thousands of years and was one of the few super sects in the northern part of the continent. Although it couldn't compare to the three holy lands, it was a colossus on the same level as the Heavenly Sword sect and the Northern Militant Imperial Court. Speaking of which, because they were both located in the extremely cold northern region, the relationship between the Tianqi sect and the Northern Militant Imperial Court had never been harmonious. Generally speaking, when one side roped in the Northern Militant Imperial Court as an ally, the other side would rope in the Tianqi sect to restrain the other side. This time, the Great Qin dynasty had simultaneously expressed goodwill towards the Northern Militant Imperial Court and the Tianqi sect. It was clear that they wanted to gather the power of the northern border to their side. The resources from the ancient desolate sea world was just a prelude. There would definitely be a series of cooperation and exchanges of benefits between the Great Qin dynasty and these two great powers. From this perspective, the Great Qin dynasty's next move would be very big. Either the Great Qin dynasty, which had always been weak, would take the initiative to suppress the Great Zhou dynasty, or the Great Zhou dynasty would make a big move against the Great Qin dynasty, forcing the Great Qin dynasty to use all of its strength to deal with it. But this is a good thing for me. Lin Feng gave a slight smile. The more chaotic and contentious the situation was, the more favorable it was for new powers like Xianmin, Tianzong to rise up. The situation was like a stagnant pool of stagnant water and an iron plate. With all the vested interests divided, it would be much more difficult for a new power to emerge. Lin Feng and the others settled down in Yuzhou City and patiently waited for the Desolate Sea assembly to begin. The little guy and the others scattered around Yuzhou City to play. After spending so much time on Yujing Mountain, occasionally changing environments was a new experience. Wang Lin had wanted to stay at his residence and continue cultivating, but he couldn't stand the little guy's pestering, so he came out with them. Walking on the streets and looking at the people coming and going, Wang Lin couldn't help but sigh. Before he had embarked on the path of cultivation, he had lived in a mountain village, and the most prosperous place he had been to was the small county near his hometown. During the opening ceremony in the Sand Continent, his mind had been focused on welcoming and sending off the guests, so he hadn't really walked around the Sand Continent. Now that he was walking in Yuzhou City, which was as prosperous as the Sand Continent, it was a feeling that he had never felt before. With his mental state broadened, Wang Lin felt that he had gained a different understanding of the Tao. Wang Lin. Is that Wang Lin? As they walked, Wang Lin suddenly heard someone call his name. He couldn't help but feel surprised. He turned around and saw a person looking at him. The person's face was somewhat familiar, but it was mostly unfamiliar. Chapter 273. The person who came was a gray-robed young man. The moment Wang Lin saw him, he recognized that this person was a brother of his from the same clan. Back then, he joined the Hung Yu sect with him. However, due to his outstanding talent, the sect took the initiative to accept him as a disciple. Wang Lin couldn't pass the test and committed suicide, which was why the Hung Yu sect reluctantly accepted him. Later, the Hung Yu sect was attacked by the Xian Dao sect's Yuanying ancestor, Pu Beizi. Many Hung Yu sect disciples joined the Xian Dao sect, including this person. After that, the two of them never saw each other again. Later, Wang Lin's life took a turn. He entered Lin Feng's tutelage and completely bid farewell to his previous life. Because he had stayed in the mysterious Heaven-Time Cave for a long time, everything that happened in the past was something that happened many years ago to Wang Lin. So when Wang Lin saw this person again today, although he immediately recognized him, he felt a sense of unfamiliarity, as if it had been a lifetime. The gray-robed young man also looked at Wang Lin in shock. To him, Wang Lin was even more unfamiliar. From his perspective, the two of them had only been separated for a little more than 2 years, but Wang Lin's body had undoubtedly undergone earth-shattering changes. The skinny young man who had extremely poor talent and couldn't be accepted by the Hung Yu sect, no matter how hard he tried, and had to commit suicide to force the sect to accept him, was now a powerful young man. The most eye-catching thing was the vast amount of magic power that Wang Lin had, which shocked his former companion. Wang Lin, who had become a joke in the entire Hung Yu sect, was now a foundation establishment cultivator, while he, who was considered a genius, was still at the qi condensation stage. Facing this scene, the gray-robed young man felt like he was in a dream. Although there was a sense of absurdity in his heart, Wang Lin's will was extremely stable and wasn't affected at all. He said, "Wang Zhua, long time no see. How have you been?" The gray-clothed young man, Wang Zhua, opened his mouth, wanting to say something. However, the huge contrast between reality and his memories created a sense of absurdity that made him unable to make a sound in the end. After the opening ceremony in the Sand Continent, the names of the Xianmen Tianzong disciples under Lin Feng were basically known to the world. Wang Zhua had long heard of the name Wang Lin. He had also suspected that this Wang Lin might be that Wang Lin, his brother from the same clan. However, he had always felt that it was impossible. Who would have thought that the reality would be right in front of him, making him feel like he had been slapped in the face? He's obviously a piece of trash with no aptitude for cultivation. How did he become a foundation establishment cultivator in such a short time? Wang Zhua felt bitter in his heart. Could it be that Xianmen Tianzong is really so powerful that the legendary Xianmen sect master actually has the ability to turn stone into gold and turn something rotten into something magical? At this time, a young man in black walked over and looked coldly at Wang Lin. He said carelessly, "Wang Zhua, is this the Wang Lin you mentioned? Is he really your brother from the same clan?" Wang Zhua said, "Yes, 17th young master. He is my brother from the same clan, Wang Lin." Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the young man in black. It was as if he was facing an unsheathed blade, sharp and full of killing intent. Hua family disciple. Wang Lin understood. The Hua family was the strongest power in the Great Qin dynasty's southern border. All the other powers in the cultivation world had to look up to them. The Xiandao sect was no exception. No matter how strong Pu Beizi was, he had to tuck his tail between his legs in front of the Hua family. After Wang Zhuo joined the Xiandao sect, for some reason, he was recognized by the Hua family and was now an outer disciple of the Hua family. This kind of situation was common for large cultivation families like the Hua family and the Yu family. While maintaining the unity of the core bloodline, they also constantly recruited talented people into the family to serve as their outer forces. While the main branch was strong, the branches and leaves were also as lush as possible to absorb new blood and ensure the family's prosperity. Wang Lin looked at Wang Zhuo and shook his head slightly. In his memory, his brother from the same clan had been full of mettle in the past, and what a proud person he had been. However, now that he was following behind the Hua clan, his pride and sharpness had all disappeared. Following the Hua family would allow him to obtain cultivation resources and legacies that were even better than the Xiandao sect and countless times better than the Hengyu sect. However, the price he had to pay was that he had lost all of his edge. Perhaps only Wang Zhuo could clearly weigh the gains and losses. Seeing Wang Lin shake his head, Wang Zhuo's eyes flashed and he lowered his head. His fists gradually clenched, but he still didn't say a word. On the other hand, Hua Chun, the young man in black whom Wang Zhuo respectfully referred to as the 17th young master, raised his eyebrows and looked at Wang Lin with a cold smile. Looking at the state of your body, I'm afraid your real age is close to middle-aged. Wang Zhuo said that the two of you were separated for only 2 years. That means you've been cultivating in a grotto heaven that can accelerate time for the past 2 years. Hua Chen smiled with a somewhat disdainful expression. 10 years, or even decades of cultivation, and you're only at the early stage of foundation establishment. Rumor has it that the disciples of the Xian sect's leader are all monstrous and extraordinary. Looks like that's all there is to it. In the end, rumors are just rumors. The killing intent and magic power on his entire body was released, and instantly, the space within a radius of a few tens of meters was completely enveloped by an extremely oppressive and despairing aura of slaughter and death, causing one to be unable to breathe. Ordinary people that didn't possess any cultivation in the Tao would practically die upon coming into contact with his killing intent. The release of Hua Chen's aura also revealed his current cultivation level. Late-stage foundation establishment, Pill Cauldron Realm. Although Wang Lin couldn't see the grade of his pill cauldron, from the purity of its magic power, it shouldn't be a low grade. Hua Chen's actual age was only in his early 20s. To be able to condense a pill cauldron at this age, even in the Hua clan, he would be one of the best. No wonder he was so arrogant. Wang Lin was the main target of Hua Chen's killing intent, but he seemed to not feel it all. He looked at Hua Chen calmly. Hua Chen's thick eyebrows raised, and the cold smile on his face became more and more serious. He was extremely experienced in combat and could naturally see that Wang Lin wasn't faking it. Wang Lin really wasn't moved by his killing intent. But the more it was like this, the more Hua Chen wanted to make a move. 17th, what's going on? A cold and overbearing voice suddenly cut in. Following that, a man in black who looked similar to Hua Chen appeared. However, his expression was even more stern and cold. Seeing this man in black, Wang Zhuo deeply lowered his head. Hua Chen also restrained his sharpness and said respectfully, "Second brother, there is only one possibility that could make the bloodthirsty and combative Hua clan's younger generation calm down. That was, the person who came was much stronger than him. So strong that if he dared to make a move, he would be courting death. And this man in black was an expert who could make Hua Chen as obedient as a little white rabbit in an instant. The Hua clan's second young master, Hua Ming. He just stood there without doing anything. His magic power and killing intent weren't revealed in the slightest, but it made the surrounding people feel despair, as if they were in a hell of slaughter. Wang Lin looked at Hua Ming and slightly frowned. Golden Elixir period. Moreover, it's the late stage of Golden Elixir. He's only one step away from achieving Yuaniing cultivation. Because of the lifespan of cultivators, there would be a big difference in the time they gave birth. Brothers of the same age might have grandchildren, while some were still single. Therefore, among brothers of the same generation, there might be a big difference in age. Including the time he spent cultivating in the Hua clan's accelerated time grotto heaven. Huaming was already more than 100 years old. He was much older than Hua Chun. However, this wasn't the reason why he was ranked second, while Hua Chun was ranked 17th. There were also brothers of the same generation who were older than Huaming. In the Hua clan, the ranking of brothers of the same generation was completely determined by their strength. The stronger they were, the higher their ranking would be. Facing Huaming, Wang Lin felt pressured. Third junior brother, are you reuniting with an old friend? A purple-robed scholar suddenly walked slowly into the field and stood beside Wang Lin. It was Zhu Yi. Seeing Zhu Yi, Huaming's eyes lit up. His whole body was overflowing with killing intent, which erupted like a tide. His eruption startled the entire Yuzhou city. However, Zhu Yi, who was facing him directly, didn't seem to feel anything. He still stood there with a calm expression and smiled calmly. Someone from the Hua clan? Why? Do you want to have a match here? If that's the case, I'll keep you company. His tone was calm and natural, as if he was just chatting with someone. He didn't take Huaming's suffocating killing intent seriously at all. Huaming stared at Zhu Yi and muttered a few times before saying coldly, From Xianmen Tianzong, I was originally only interested in your eldest senior brother, Xiaoyan. Now it seems that you're also worth my time. Zhu Yi raised his eyebrows and said calmly, Unfortunately, we're actually not that interested in you. Huaming wasn't angry when he heard that, but his killing intent became more violent. Very well, even if it's the ancestor's ban, I don't care anymore. I'll kill you first, and then go to the ancestor to receive my punishment. Hua Chun, who was next to him, sneered. Fish look for fish, shrimp look for shrimp. Second brother has found his opponent, so I'll play with you. Wang Lin's expression didn't change. He said calmly, As you wish. Hua Chun sneered. Do you think I'm talking about you? You're not qualified. I'm talking about the one behind you. Wang Lin's expression was calm. He naturally knew that Yu Hongyan was standing behind him and had arrived with Zhu Yi. After the red-haired, red-eyed Yu Hongyan arrived, she hadn't said a word. She maintained her respect for Zhu Yi and Wang Lin and let them handle the situation. However, with her fiery temper, it was fine if others didn't provoke her. But if they took the initiative to come to her, she wouldn't back down at all. Her body was as unrestrained as a storm and as blazing as a flame, and she directly pushed back Hua Chen's killing intent and mana. Hua Chen's eyes narrowed. Is she really in the late stage of foundation establishment? She's not even 20 years old, right? The two sides were facing each other, and a battle was about to break out. Suddenly, two voices came from the sky at the same time. One was the cold voice of the Hua family's essence soul patriarch, Hua Xiao. Huaming, Hua Chun, get back here or all of you will die. The other voice belonged to Lin Feng. He was calm and indifferent. You'll have a chance to fight during the Desolate Sea Assembly. Since the two big shots had spoken at the same time, there was naturally no way they would fight. Huaming and Hua Chun exchanged glances with deep regret in their eyes. Huaming snorted and flew into the sky without saying a word. How many of your seniors and juniors are already in the golden elixir period? You're still in the early stage of foundation establishment. Before Hua Chun left, he turned and sneered at Wang Lin. I heard that the red-haired girl beside you joined the sect later than you did. She's already in the late stage of foundation establishment, and you're still there? All your years of cultivation must have gone to waste, right? Amidst his maniacal laughter, Hua Chun turned and left with Wang Zhua. Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan's expressions darkened at the same time. Zhu Yi was about to make Hua Chun stay. When had the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong ever been ridiculed like this? Master said that there will be plenty of opportunities during the Desolate Sea Assembly. Wang Lin stopped Zhu Yi. As he watched Hua Chun leave, his gaze became colder and colder. Chapter 274. Even though Lin Feng was not at the scene, he still clearly heard the ridicule Hua Chun left behind before he left. His evaluation was, the mockery is quite on point, but the more you do this, the more miserable your death will be. In all fairness, Hua Chen's mockery towards Wang Lin definitely hit Wang Lin's weak spot. No matter how cold and calm Wang Lin was usually, he would still be enraged by Hua Chen's words. The gap between him and Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and Tiny Tot had always been a huge mountain in Wang Lin's heart. It had been pressing down on him ever since he entered the sect. Currently, Lin Feng had 6 direct disciples. Not counting Xiao Yin and the other 2, Yu Hongyan was in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm, and Yang Qing had also established her beer and reached the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. This made Wang Lin's situation even more awkward. Everyone in Xiamen Tianzong knew that Wang Lin's combat ability was actually very strong. Although Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing's cultivation levels were higher than his, if they really fought, it would be clear who would win and who would lose. However, the problem was that outsiders did not see it that way. What they could see was that Wang Lin, as the 3rd disciple under Lin Feng, had the lowest cultivation level among the 6. Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. Hua Chun, right? You're doomed. Under Lin Feng's guidance, Wang Lin had always been able to maintain a calm state of mind, turning the pressure into motivation for him to improve instead of resentment towards his fellow disciples. However, the pressure still existed, and he needed an outlet to vent it. Now, someone had come to his door voluntarily. If it was Hua Ming in the late stage of the Golden Elixir, Wang Lin would probably have to wait for a while before he could personally take revenge. However, it was Hua Chun in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm, so it was easy. Brat, I pray to the gods that you don't end up in the same group as Xiao Lin in this Desolate Sea assembly. Otherwise, you will definitely be beaten up so badly that even your parents won't be able to recognize you. Lin Feng thought with some schadenfreude, Xiaoyo, who is the destined one? Is he someone you can casually mock? You're really afraid that you won't die fast enough. Even if you manage to avoid the Desolate Sea assembly this time, when you enter the Desolate Sea ancient world to train, you'll still have to obediently be Xiao Lin's experienced baby. The Great Qin Empire wanted to tame the Hua family, and it seems that they've succeeded. An elder's voice suddenly sounded out. Lin Feng came back to his senses and looked at the purple-robed elder next to him. He smiled and said, Sorry to make you laugh, Dao Master Lan Ting. The purple-robed elder smiled and shook his head. His attitude was very friendly, but no one would look down on him. This was because he was a primordial soul mighty figure with divine powers that could turn the world upside down. Dao Master Lan Ting was one of the 3 Dao Masters of the Purple Cloud Path. In terms of identity, he was also the senior brother of the current sect master of the Purple Cloud Path, Dao Master Lei Yin. He had already achieved the primordial soul realm thousands of years ago. Today, he suddenly took the initiative to come to him. Although he was very polite, it also made Lin Feng a little surprised. He could not figure out what he was thinking. The Purple Cloud Path was located in the east of the Great Qin Dynasty, at the border between the Great Qin Dynasty and the Great Zhou Dynasty. It was also one of the top sects in the Divine Land, and its strength was on par with the Tianqi sect and the Heavenly Sword sect. Although it was not as good as the 3 sacred grounds of the past, it was stronger than the Sun Moon Sword sect and the Celeritas Sword sect. Lin Feng had just found out that the Purple Cloud Path was also participating in the Desolate Sea Assembly. Not long after he got the news from Dao Jiqiang, Dao Master Lan Ting took the initiative to come to him. This elder was also the leader of the Purple Cloud Path. The Dao of the Purple Cloud Path is quite extraordinary. The Tianqi sect cannot be underestimated. Although he was confident in Xiao Budian and the others, Lin Feng secretly paid attention. Be careful not to fail. The inheritance of the Purple Cloud Path originated from the ancient Almighty Thunder Emperor. The founder of the sect, Dao Master Purple Cloud, was the eldest disciple of the Thunder Emperor and the most orthodox successor. Rumor had it that the Thunder Emperor cultivated the strongest Thunder Dao in the world, the 9 Heavens Thunder Dao. It was said that the beginning of the world's chaos came from the sound of thunder, and the Thunder Emperor's Thunder Tao could even destroy the chaos and rebirth the world, which was why he had the reputation of the Thunder Emperor. This purple cloud path obtained his Thunder Tao inheritance. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was the #1 Thunder Tao sect in the divine land of the human world. As one of the three giants of the purple cloud path, Tao Master Lan Ting suddenly came to visit, and his attitude was very humble. This made Lin Feng feel a little strange. I heard that Sect Master Lin has a disciple who cultivates the infinite wind thunder technique and is quite powerful. In the position of Tao Master Lan Ting, there was no need to hide too much. Everyone spoke straightforwardly. I have a presumptuous request, and I hope Sect Master Lin can help me. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Could it be that the other party took a fancy to Xiao Budian's infinite wind thunder technique and came to ask for it? This was not a matter of being impolite. It was simply asking for a beating. Tao Master Lan Ting also found that his words just now were easy to cause ambiguity. So he quickly said, after listening to the description of others, my two junior brothers and I have some questions in our hearts, and we want to ask Sect Master Lin to answer them. Has the other disciple cultivated the Nine Heavens thunder technique? When Lin Feng heard this, his mind spun, and he remembered some information about the purple sky path. He immediately came to a realization. Tao Master Purple Cloud, the founder of the purple cloud path, was the eldest disciple of the Thunder Emperor and inherited the orthodoxy of the Thunder Emperor. Unfortunately, he did not learn all the skills of his master. The Nine Heavens thunder technique that Tao Master Purple Cloud cultivated was incomplete. This incomplete part had been passed down in history, but most of it had been annihilated in the long river of time. The earliest Taoism that Lin Feng obtained, the Nine Heavens thunder technique, was a branch derived from the incomplete part of the Nine Heavens thunder technique. But even so, the Nine Heavens thunder technique itself could be regarded as a rare Taoism book. It pointed directly to the Great Way and was infinitely mysterious. The magic of the complete version of the Nine Heavens thunder technique could be seen from this. Tao Master Purple Cloud was worthy of being an ancestor and an ancient hero. Although he was missing a part of the Taoism, he managed to find another way to perfect the Nine Heavens thunder technique. This method was to cross the thunder retribution. In the process of crossing the thunder retribution, one had to rely on one's own perception to understand the mystery of the Nine Heavens thunder technique. Therefore, the name of the Taoism book of the Purple Cloud Path was Tribulation Scripture. Other cultivators would have to cross the thunder retribution when they reached the peak of the late golden elixir and advance from the nascent soul stage to the Yuanying stage. As for the disciples of the Purple Cloud Path who cultivated the Tribulation Scripture, they would have to endure the test of being struck by the thunder retribution from the foundation establishment stage. Every time they broke through a small stage, they would have to go through a thunder retribution. In the course of their cultivation, they would have to endure a total of 9 thunder retributions before they could finally break through to the essence soul stage. Although the power of the previous thunder retribution was much lower than the real void thunder retribution when other cultivators formed their nascent soul, the dermic powers of the cultivators of the Purple Cloud Path were also far lower than the late golden elixir stage. Therefore, this method of crossing the thunder retribution was still extremely dangerous. But other than that, there was no other way to cultivate the Nine Heavens thunder technique. Therefore, generation after generation of people in the Purple Cloud Path, even though they knew that there was a steep cliff in front of them and that they would most likely die if they dared to take it, they still had to continue. For thousands of years, it was unknown how many outstanding talents, grandmasters and master craftsmen had died under that thunderous sound. It was also because of this that everyone in the Purple Cloud Path was trying their best to find the missing Dharma while walking on the broken wooden bridge. However, it is also because they have experienced the test of thunder retribution that the strength of the cultivators of the Purple Cloud Path is far better than other cultivators of the same realm. Lin Feng thought this is also a kind of compensation. Although there were a lot of thoughts in Lin Feng's mind, It was actually just a matter of a moment. That's right. I once obtained the complete copy of the Nine Heavens Thunder technique by accident. Although it's not as exquisite as the true teachings of my sect, I don't forbid my disciples from learning it because of the principle of drawing parallels from other mountains. Lin Feng frankly admitted that with Tao Master Blue Thunder's identity, he must have been 100% sure that he dared to come to him personally and ask for it. Tao Master Blue Thunder nodded and said sincerely, "My sect has been searching for the Nine Heavens Thunder technique for thousands of years. Today, I finally found it. I hope Sect Master Lin can help me. My sect will be grateful." Although he did not say it clearly, his words had already made it very clear that Lin Feng could ask for anything. As long as it was not obviously making things difficult for him, the purple cloud path could satisfy him. Lin Feng smiled slightly. "Tao Master Blue Thunder is too polite. I am very happy to help you. This can also be regarded as a good story between our two sections." He flicked his finger, and a small light spot landed in front of Tao Master Blue Thunder. Tao Master Blue Thunder took the light spot and scanned it with his Dharma power. He immediately recognized that Lin Feng had given him the complete Nine Heavens Thunder technique. There was not the slightest omission or fraud. The long-cherished wish of the entire sect for thousands of years had been fulfilled. Even Tao Master Blue Thunder, who had experienced countless years, became excited at this moment. Although there were still some flaws in the great path of the Nine Heavens Thunder, even after obtaining the Nine Heavens Thunder technique, the remaining flaws were already extremely small. The purple cloud path had taken a big step forward on the path of completing the great path of the Nine Heavens Thunder. Tao Master Blue Thunder calmed himself down and looked up at Lin Feng with an inquisitive look in his eyes. Lin Feng looked calm and just smiled slightly. It seemed that he was also happy that the purple cloud path had successfully completed the incomplete Tao. After a moment of silence, Tao Master Blue Thunder bowed to Lin Feng and said seriously, "On behalf of the entire sect, I thank Sect Master Lin for your help." Lin Feng smiled. It was not that he did not want to repay the favor, but the value of the favor in his hands was the greatest. Any debt was easy to repay, but the favor was the most difficult to repay. Now that he asked for something from Tao Master Blue Thunder, the nature of the favor changed. It became a transaction between the two parties. Once the transaction was over, there would be no follow-up. But now, the transaction had become a favor, which could play a far greater role in the future than today's transaction. If Xianmin Tianzong wanted to rise and take a share of the territory of the original major forces, a strong ally was indispensable. Of course, there was also the possibility that Purple Cloud Dao would refuse to acknowledge their gains and choose to burn the bridge after crossing it. But for Lin Feng, giving away the Nine Heavens Thunder technique was not a loss. If the Purple Cloud Path really wanted to renege on the debt, he had other ways to deal with it. But now it seemed that the Purple Cloud Path, or at least Tao Master Blue Thunder, had quite a good character and remembered Lin Feng's favor. Lin Feng smiled and waved his hand. "As I said before, I hope to leave a good story between our two sections." Tao Master Blue Thunder also laughed. "I believe Sect Master Junior Brother will also be happy to see this scene." The two laughed at the same time. Lin Feng of Xianmin Tianzong come out. As they were laughing, a cold voice suddenly came from outside the residence, and the tone was quite rude. Lin Feng's expression remained unchanged, but he was slightly shocked. This Dharma power fluctuation, is it from an essence soul cultivator? Chapter 275. As he spoke, the entire space seemed to be shaking, as if it was about to collapse. At the same time, Lin Feng had a very strange feeling that he seemed to be in a world of intertwining cold and heat, where extreme cold and extreme heat were fused together. This feeling was very strange. It was not that he was alternating between cold and hot, but that he felt two completely different temperatures at the same time. It was not that half of his body was cold and the other half was hot, but that every inch of his skin and pores had a feeling of coldness and heat at the same time. Cold, it was extremely cold. Among the things that Lin Feng had encountered in his life, only Xianming true water could be better. Heat, It was extremely hot. Except for the few true fires, Lin Feng had never felt such heat before. The temperature in the room did not change at all. All the feelings were due to the other party's Dharma power acting on Lin Feng's divine soul. Moreover, only Lin Feng could feel this feeling of coldness and heat. Tao Master Blue Thunder, who was close to him, could not feel it. However, this did not prevent Tao Master Blue Thunder from discovering the problem. He snorted coldly. Chao Wei of the Celestial Pool Sect. Lin Feng had never encountered the Dharma power of the Celestial Pool Sect before. Now that Tao Master Blue Thunder mentioned it, a name immediately appeared in his mind. Tao Master Ice Fire, Chao Wei, the current sect master of the Celestial Pool Sect. This time, Chao Wei personally led the Celestial Pool Sect to participate in the Wilderness Sea Assembly. Rumor has it that the foundation of the Celestial Pool Sect is in the Snow Mountain Celestial Pool. In this world of ice and snow, there is an active volcano. No wonder he can cultivate this strange Dharma power that fuses ice and fire. Lin Feng said with a smile, turning a deaf ear to Chao Wei's pressure on him. Tao Master Blue Thunder's snow-white eyebrows trembled slightly, and a smile appeared on his face. If Lin Feng could not deal with Chao Wei, he did not mind helping him, but in that case, it would be equivalent to returning the favor. If the two sides were not equal in strength, the weak could only follow the strong and would not become allies. Xianmin Tianzong is indeed extraordinary. Tao Master Lan Ting secretly nodded. The house they were now in was specially prepared by the Great Qin dynasty for Lin Feng and the others in Yuzhou City. The environment was pleasant, but it would be a complete joke to say that it could stop Chao Wei, the primordial soul stage Tao Master Ice Fire. Chao Wei's voice came from the sky outside the house. There was no anger in his voice, only endless coldness. I heard that Lin Feng, Xianmin Tianzong's disciples, are known to be invincible in fights of magical powers in the same realm. Since that's the case, why don't you and I have a match? Let's see if you, Xianmin Tianzong, are truly invincible within the same realm. Before his voice died away, Lin Feng could feel a violent fluctuation of magical power coming from outside the house. Without going out of the house, Lin Feng could also see a middle-aged man standing in the sky. He was not tall, wearing a silk scarf and a white robe. He was dressed like a Confucian scholar and had a white velvet cloak draped over his shoulders. His eyes were also staring at Lin Feng. The two of them looked at each other. Lin Feng's eyes were as deep as the sea, calm and unfathomable. Chao Wei's gaze was incomparably cold, but within the coldness, there seemed to be a blazing and violent emotion brewing. This person's eyes were snow-white, like the snowfield of the North Pole. In the center of the eyes, there was a flame jumping. The flames did not burn intensely. It seemed to be incomparably oppressive. Lin Feng looked at the flames. It was as if he was standing on top of a volcano looking down, looking at the constantly tumbling magma that could erupt at any time. Chao Wei said coldly, "Xianmin Tianzong." Suddenly, snow-white crystals appeared around his body. These crystals were pulsating like flames. However, Lin Feng could see that these crystals were formed by ice and snow. These ice and snow were dancing in the air like a raging fire, emitting a fiery temperature. Lin Feng understood. Is this the Celestial Pool Sect's signature magical power, the ice flame? The Celestial Pool Sect's supreme technique was called the Arctic Flaming Sun Mystic Spell. If one succeeded in cultivating it, they could cultivate the ice flame that had the power of both ice and fire, combining the extreme cold and extreme heat. Is there something wrong with this guy's brain? Lin Feng felt strange. Was he instigated by someone? Or does he really not like me? Why did he come to fight me for no reason? At first, Chao Wei's ice flame only jumped around his body, but the next moment, it covered the entire sky and completely covered Yuzhou City. The monstrous ice and raging fire fell on Lin Feng like a rain of fire. However, the power of this rain of fire was something that even Lin Feng and Tao Master Blue Thunder had to pay attention to. Every raindrop-like flame contained the powerful Dharma power of Chao Wei's primordial soul realm and had amazing destructive power. Lin Feng was still sitting in the room. He did not even move his body. He just stretched out his right hand and clenched it in the air. In the sky, the rain of fire that had just begun to fall suddenly had nowhere to go. The space in front of them suddenly cracked and turned into chaos. Countless chaotic earth, water, fire, and wind elements swallowed the rain of fire with a momentum that was even more fierce than the rain of fire. The sky above Yuzhou City was completely shattered by Lin Feng's shatter of heaven and earth. The void was shattered and countless spiritual qi of heaven and earth became a pot of porridge. Like a flood, it rushed towards Chao Wei and wanted to swallow him. Chao Wei's expression did not change. He just nodded slightly, pinched a spell with his right hand, and shouted, "Seal!" The ice flame around him suddenly jumped, and the original hot temperature became colder and colder until it finally became bone-chilling. The original appearance of ice and snow had now turned into a pale white flame. Contrary to the previous hot ice and snow, it was now a cold, pale white flame. The flame was very slow, as if it was moving in slow motion. It did not look like a lively flame, but like it was gradually solidifying. These flames jumped and forcibly froze the rushing earth, water, fire, and wind elements. Finally, they stabilized and disappeared. Lin Feng calmly looked at Chao Wei and thought, maybe I can test my new spell on him? In the previous confrontation, Chao Wei had exchanged 2 moves for 1 move from Lin Feng, so he was at a slight disadvantage. With Chao Wei's aggressive attitude, he would definitely not take this line down. As expected, Chao Wei chanted, and the ice flame around him condensed into the shape of a volcano, emitting a terrifying wave of energy. However, Lin Feng frowned slightly. It was not because Chao Wei's move was too strong. On the contrary, it was too weak. The power was not weak, but the casting speed was too slow. At Chao Wei's realm, words were the law. With a thought, he could cast endless magic. In the eyes of others, this speed was still something that happened in an instant. However, in the eyes of Lin Feng, it was clearly too slow. Right at this moment, a fat old man who was smiling amiably suddenly appeared between the two of them. He chuckled and said, "This Dharma assembly is a competition between the disciples of the sect. Why are the two of you fighting each other first? Slow down, slow down. Please give the great Qin Empire some face. I thank you in advance." Lin Feng smiled and said, "So it's Dao Master Chong Lu. Nice to meet you." Dao Master Chong Lu smiled and said, "Sect Master Lin, you are too polite." He then turned to look at Chao Wei and said, "Sect Master Chao, long time no see." Although they had never met before, Lin Feng had already done some research on the powerful people of the Qin Empire before this trip. This fat old man looked friendly, but he was one of the core figures of the Qin Empire. His name was Dao Master Chong Lu. He was originally a member of the royal family and reached the Essence Soul realm 1,000 years ago. He usually liked to roam the world freely, but when the Qin Empire was in trouble, he would still act decisively. However, it was unexpected that this old man would participate in this Barren Sea spell gathering. This discovery made Lin Feng's heart flutter. Dao Master Chong Lu, who rarely appears, is here. Then what about the other Essence Soul realm experts of the Qin Empire? It seems that this Barren Sea spell gathering is not simple. The Qin Empire's plan is not small. Long time no see. Chao Wei looked at Dao Master Chong Lu coldly. His eyes flickered as if he still wanted to fight. At this moment, 2 bright sword lights suddenly split the sky and appeared beside Dao Master Chong Lu. The sharp sword essence made Lin Feng and Chao Wei frown. "Sect Master Chao, do you want to slaughter the entire Yu State City?" The person on the left was a handsome young man. His smile was like a spring breeze. "If the two of you really fight, let alone Yu State City, even the northern border of the Qin Empire will be completely destroyed." Lin Feng and Chao Wei's eyes narrowed at the same time. Glorious sword master? Although this person looked young, He was actually an Essence Soul Realm expert who had been famous for thousands of years. He was a member of the Nine Heaven Sword Alliance and the sect master of the Sun Moon Sword sect, Glorious Sword Master. The disciples of the Sun Moon Sword sect would form pairs from the Foundation establishment stage and choose their sword partners to accompany them for life. One male and one female, one yin and one yang. One cultivated the Glorious Sun Sword doctrine, and the other cultivated the Moonlight Sword doctrine. They would help and support each other. If one of them died, they would choose another disciple who had a similar cultivation level and was also alone to pair up. However, reaching the primordial spirit realm was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The Sun Luminary Sword Venerable achieved primordial spirit by himself, but his sword companion was not as lucky. Therefore, strictly speaking, he could be considered the only bachelor in the Sun Moon Sword sect among the cultivators above the Foundation establishment stage. For thousands of years, he had been waiting for his Moonlight Sword Master. The disciples of the Sun Moon Sword sect could combine the Glorious Sun Sword and the Moonlight Sword, which could exert the effect of 1 + 1 was far greater than 2. But even if they were alone, the strength of the sword cultivators under their sect was also superb. Glorious Sword Master himself was a great sword cultivator who looked down on all heroes and was not weaker than Flowing Light Sword Master on the other side. The person standing on the right side of Down Master Changle was Flowing Light Sword Master, who had met Lin Feng once. At this moment, he did not say a word and did not care about Chao Wei in the sky. Instead, his eyes fell on Lin Feng, and no one knew what he was thinking. At this time, Down Master Changle laughed and said, "I will be the host. Please give me some face." Lin Feng smiled indifferently and said, "The guest follows the host." Anyway, he did not suffer any losses before, so he was happy to be generous. And through observation, Lin Feng found that Chao Wei inexplicably came to provoke him. It seemed that he had other intentions. In this case, he would not let Chao Wei get what he wanted. In the sky, Chao Wei glanced at Down Master Changle and then at Glorious Sword Master and Flowing Light Sword Master. He nodded coldly and said, "After the spell conference, we will discuss it." Since the master had arrived, it was not good for Lin Feng and Down Master Blue Thunder to sit in the house. They came out together and rose into the air. The several Essence Soul Realm cultivators stood facing each other. Down Master Changle laughed and said, "The ancient desolate sea world is about to open and the spell conference is about to officially begin. Please follow me to the North Wind Sea." Lin Feng nodded with a smile and was about to agree when his heart suddenly moved. Damn, these troublemakers. Chapter 276. With a thought from Lin Feng, he felt a murderous aura fill the streets of the northern part of U State City. On the street, a big man like an ancient beast stood on the ground, glaring at a group of white-clothed people opposite him. This big man was dressed in a different race's attire, and his body was full of vitality. It was clear that he specialized in body martial arts. Behind him was a group of cultivators dressed in the same attire. All of them were full of vitality, like a group of violent dragons. When Lin Feng saw this, he suddenly understood. Are they people from the Northern Militant Royal Court? The cultivation system of the Northern Militant Imperial Court was divided into two relatively extreme directions. The vast majority of people specialized in body martial arts. The strength of their bodies was at the top of the entire Heaven Yuan Great World, enough to be comparable to many ancient monster race bloodlines. There was also a small group of people who focused on soul techniques, also known as shaman techniques. They were very different from the orthodox inheritance of the Divine Land, but they had very high attainments in the way of the soul. Opposite these northern militant cultivators was a group of people in white with cold expressions. They were the heavenly pool sect cultivators that he had seen before. But this was not the main point. The main point was that Lin Feng discovered that Xiao Budian, Tuntin, and Zhuge Fengling were sneakily hiding near the two opposing groups. Their faces were filled with a gloating expression as if they were watching the show. What gave Lin Feng a headache was the smiles on the faces of the three little fellows. No matter how he looked at them, they looked like three little weasels that had successfully stolen a chicken. Lin Feng's expression did not change, but he rolled his eyes in his heart. What trouble did these troublemakers cause this time? Chao Wei also noticed a movement over there. Seeing the northern militant cultivators, his expression became even colder. Dao Master Chong Lu and the others also noticed the movement over there. Dao Master Chong Lu, who was always cheerful, let out a rare sigh. Your Highness left virtuous prince, please restrain your people. Otherwise, my great Qin's state city will be flattened by you. The two countries bordered each other, and sometimes there would be disputes. With so many northern militant cultivators causing such a big commotion, in the eyes of the ordinary citizens of State City, it was no different from an invasion by the northern militant. If the other side did not give an explanation, even with Dao Master Chong Li's good temper, he would be ruthless and start killing. A bold and unrestrained voice came from the northern sky, laughing loudly. Dao Master Chong Lu, please forgive me. My sons were too reckless. The laughter came from very far at first, but in the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Lin Feng and the others. The person who appeared in front of everyone was a tall, middle-aged man. He was dressed luxuriously, but all of this could not conceal the primitive vitality and explosive power hidden under his smile. The strength of his qi and blood. Lin Feng, standing next to him, was like standing next to the sun. This person's body was emitting blood, almost condensing into a substance. One could faintly see a red halo around his body, making one's heart palpitate. This was the person with the strongest body Lin Feng had ever seen since he came to this world. He was also the only person he had seen since he reached the Yuanying stage that could beat the God of War's avatar in terms of pure physical strength. Northern militant left virtuous prince, one of the top figures of the Northern Militant Imperial Court in the Primordial Soul stage. Lin Feng looked at him and was secretly amazed. Reaching the Primordial Soul stage is to combine one's own Yuanying with the laws of heaven and earth, and then combine it with the power of laws to refine one's own Primordial Soul incarnation. After most cultivators reach the Primordial Spirit stage, they will even abandon their original flesh and skin. But this northern militant left virtuous prince seems to be doing the opposite, fusing the primordial spirit avatar with his flesh and skin. Abandoning the primordial soul incarnation to be unrestricted and free beyond the heavens in order to continue strengthening the body, it's really hard to say what the gains and losses are. Lin Feng thought, in the human race's divine land, the best place to cultivate the body is the Buddhist holy land of the past, the Great Thunder Sound Temple. I heard that the Buddhist powerhouses who reach the primordial soul stage will all refine their own golden bodies, which are completely different from ordinary primordial soul incarnations. I wonder if it's the same, combining the power of the primordial soul incarnation with the body? With Prince Wuxian's words, the northern militant cultivators gradually retracted their killing intent, but their gazes towards the people of the Heavenly Pool sect were still filled with anger. The Heavenly Pool sect cultivators still had cold expressions as they stared at the men of the northern militant without a care. The two sides already had many conflicts, so it was no big deal to fight. Dao Master Chong Lu, please forgive us. Our children were a bit reckless, but we can't blame them. Prince Wuxian slowly said, Dao Master must also know that we northern militant people raise horses for generations. Our fellow mortals raise ordinary horses, and the cultivators of our generation who embark on the path of cultivation raise dark, cloud, howling wind beasts, and other spirit beasts. However, our feelings toward these horses are the same. They're the family of us northern militant people. They accompany us through the wind, frost, rain, and snow. Prince Wuxian's gaze landed on Chao Wei. Although he still wore a smile on his face, there was a hint of anger in his tone. Now, there's a despicable person who dares to steal our family members. How can we just ignore it? Dao Master Chong Lu was stunned. You have a dark cloud howling wind beast that was stolen. The dark cloud howling wind beast was a kind of spirit beast that the cultivators of the northern militant imperial court usually raised. It looked like a horse, but its physical strength was much stronger. Its body was the size of an elephant, and it had a bloodthirsty and ferocious temperament. Like the brontosaurus horses, the dark cloud howling wind beast had a bit of the bloodline of the ancient sky dragon. Although it was also impure, it was purer than the brontosaurus horses, and its strength was also stronger than the brontosaurus horses. The northern militant imperial court had a dark cloud howling wind beast king. Its strength was not inferior to the dragon clan of the same realm. This kind of spirit beast was raised by almost every northern militant cultivator. It grew up with them and walked the path of cultivation together. It was not only a companion, but also a good helper when facing enemies. The relationship between the northern militant cultivators and their dark cloud howling wind beast was very good, but now that it had been stolen, it was no wonder that they were all angry. Even a primordial spirit expert, like the northern militant left virtuous prince, was truly angry. Chao Wei saw that the other side was staring at him with ill intent. How could he not know that this debt had been placed on his head? He almost subconsciously wanted to refute, but the words stopped at the tip of his tongue. His Tianqi sect had never had a harmonious relationship with the northern militant imperial court. The two sides would often have friction, let alone small conflicts. They had even fought a large battle more than once. Now that they had suddenly gathered in U-State City, it was hard to say whether or not there were disciples of his sect that were unhappy with the northern militant barbarians and wanted to kill a few dark cloud howling wind beasts to vent their anger. Chao Wei had the ability to control the actions of all the disciples in his sect, but he was not that bored. Even if there was such a thing, it was not a big deal. Although this kind of action was a bit petty, Chao Wei did not intend to criticize his own disciples. You can't even look after your own horses and want to blame others. Is this how you northern militant people do things? Chao Wei's expression was cold as he indifferently said, "If I were you, I would first review the negligence of my own sect. Who knows if your horses ran away on their own? If there's anything, blame it on my Tianqi sect." My Tianqi sect doesn't have the time to entertain you, Chao Wei coldly said. If you want to find trouble, my Tianqi sect will accept it. Don't make up so many laughable excuses. The northern militant Zhuoxian prince looked up to the sky and laughed. What a good Tianqi sect. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it? My children have been chasing the mane of the dark cloud howling wind beasts all the way to your Tianqi sect's camp. They even found one of the stolen dark cloud howling wind beasts in the courtyard. Catching a thief and taking his dirty clothes, you have no choice but to admit it. Seeing the two opposing each other, Lin Feng felt a bit guilty. He quietly turned his body and didn't say anything. Those two gluttons. Lin Feng had the urge to slap his forehead. He was 90% sure that it was Xiao Budian who stole the northern militant imperial court's dark cloud howling wind beasts and then shifted the blame to the Tianqi sect that had always been at odds with the northern militant. In fact, their method of shifting the blame was very crude. It was impossible for the northern militant imperial court not to see the problem, but they were happy to make the best of their mistake and run to the Tianqi sect to cause trouble. Who cares if it was really you who did it? Let's fight first. Sure enough, Lin Feng's divine sense swept out and saw Xiao Budian and the other two watching the confrontation between the two forces. From the looks of it, they couldn't wait for the two sides to fight. Then they could fish in troubled waters and reap more benefits from it. Come back, they can't fight anymore. Lin Feng speechlessly transmitted his voice to the three little fellows who were afraid that things wouldn't get out of hand. Xiao Budian and Tunten looked at each other and laughed, while Zhuge Fingling's face was filled with obvious regret. The three sneakily retreated, moving closer to Lin Feng's side. On the other side, Dao Master Chong Lu was helplessly mediating between northern militant prince Zhuoxian and Chao Wei. You and I are both guests today. I won't talk nonsense with you. Northern militant prince Zhuoxian waved his hand. In a moment, the Wasteland Sea Assembly will officially start. Let's let the children of our two families compete. Do you dare to make a bet with me? Chao Wei coldly said, bet on what? Prince Wuxian said, "If the children of our two families draw lots at the assembly to determine the winner, if your Tianqi sect wins, we will forget about this matter. But if the children of the Northern Militant Imperial Court win, you will have to publicly apologize and return our dark cloud howling wind beast." Chao Wei coldly snorted. "Ridiculous! Do you dare to be more thick-skinned?" Northern Militant Prince Wuxian was not in a hurry at this time. He slowly said, "If you can't make the decision, you can go back and discuss it with Elder Bing and Elder Hua. I can wait." When Sun Glory Swordmaster and Lu Guang Swordmaster heard this, their expressions became strange. Dao Master Chong Lu smiled bitterly. Lin Feng secretly clicked his tongue. This northern militant prince, Wuxian, looked big and tall, but his words were so sinister. Different from Lu Guang Swordmaster and Sun Glory Swordmaster, Chao Wei, as the sect master of the Tianqi sect, was not the only one in the sect. There were also two supreme elders above him. Because these two people had been cultivating in seclusion all year round, few people knew their names. The outside world generally called them Elder Bing and Elder Hua. In fact, Elder Bing and Elder Hua had not been involved in worldly affairs for many years. The internal affairs of the Tianqi sect were all handled by Chao Wei. He could be said to be a man of his word in the sect. However, if Elder Bing and Elder Hua really wanted to speak, Chao Wei would definitely have to think twice. It was just that this situation was extremely rare. But now Prince Wuxian was using this point to squeeze him. It was really harsh words. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.